Hold on. Merry Mishmas, everybody. Hold on, he's pensive about it. Hold on, I've got another one. Reasons greetings.
Jesus, you can't just spring that on someone.
They just get worse from here. It's the most horrible time of the year.
I know you're gonna keep all of these.
All right, so hi, welcome to the exposition episode. This is going up first. So hi, we're playing Cold Steel 3, not like this generally. Usually, maybe a little bit, but yeah, no, we I have an intro on the actual first episode. We've recorded a few, so we're pretty set on it. We're set on doing this, but it turned out Zero was Trails from Zero just really hostile to video Let's Plays, like way more so than I really expected. And this Cold Steel, for all of its faults, is better paced for this sort of thing. It is paced at all, which Zero did not seem to be. It just kind of it would easily, just as easily, drop you into 5 full world dialogue refreshes as 6 major story events in a row.
Oh, I don't know why you decided that we should stop right before the part where they add 3 times as many NPCs to the world.
I mean, I would assume most of them are just called tourist.
Most?
Nonetheless, we're here, and I figured we should probably, as we did with Cold Steel 2, go through the recap of the previous game's events and assorted other things. There's many things on these library shelves somewhere. There we go. All of these things. But we're actually not going to start here. There's what we are going to do is from the main menu. There's a much more comprehensive set of things with like images and stuff that you can look at instead of just this the whole time. Meow.
You're loving this, aren't you?
I have feelings about it, so that's something. But basically everything except these 2 shelves here are from the top menu, so that's why I have this save here in the first place. This is the current events shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who loves current events? Tatiana.
I can't see why the slow turning towards her is horrifying.
So the apparently I saved after it. The joke was supposed to be that she has the voice line where she goes, which would be warranted in this case. But apparently I screwed that up.
Ah, well, you can edit it in.
I can, but I'm not gonna. Let's get back to title. I'm very good at this, at setting things up. And yeah, get out of here, Crossbell. Leave. We don't like you here.
Go home, or not home. Nobody wants you here. I can't do a good John Lithgow.
Go unhome. Backstory. Read about events and characters from past games. Now, fortunately for us, the Trails of Cold Steel 1 summary is basically, in Japanese, I'm sure it is exactly word for word, as it was in the previous game. In this one, it is mostly word for word, in a way that I have to assume they had to pay Exceed for some of it. It's like grammar fixes, is what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it is identical. So we have a whole video on that, so, we'll be all right. But we do have Trails of Cold Steel summary, character profiles, and a world introduction. There's not a summary of the title screen. I figured we can just start with the world introduction and go through all of that, and then hop in for the current events.
Okay.
And then we can do Cold Steel 2 summary, character profiles, and we'll just sort of trade off reading stuff.
Seems good to me.
And it'll be a fun time in the world of Trails. Orbments. Just kicking it off with the best of the best. See, graphics. Orbments are machinery that draw out power from septium to produce a multitude of different effects. These effects vary depending on the arrangement of circuitry created from processed septium and gears within an orbment. Not only are orbments useful for their manifold. Manifold? Is that the right word?
Manifold is correct.
Okay. But since septium replenishes its own orbital energy over time, they are far more efficient than any other form of energy. Of all the types of orbments in use today, one particular variant is known as the battle orbment, pictured on the right. These devices synchronize with their users, boosting their physical capabilities while also granting them the ability to cast orbital arts. Battle orbments are now in their 5th generation. The type currently being developed by Erebonia for military use is referred to as the Arcus unit. Exciting.
The Orbital Revolution. The orbital revolution was brought about 50 years ago by Professor C. Epstein's invention of orbments. The public was initially skeptical of this new technology, but the spread of orbital railways, airships, and telephones by his students after his passing quickly proved its value. Only 50 years later, orbments have become a necessity. Everyday items such as heating and lighting, mass transportation, such as trains and airships, and even weapons like tanks and cannons are orbital-powered now. What's more, advancements in technology have decreased the size of orbital engines, leading to the development of automobiles, pilotable humanoid weapons, and an orbital network made of countless orbital terminals.
They really kind of buried the humanoid weapons in there.
Yeah!
And we also have computers.
I might have put those near the tanks.
The Zemurian civilization. An ancient civilization that existed 1,200 years ago, prior to the beginning of the Septian calendar. They possessed a level of technology far surpassing that of the modern era, but a mysterious disaster known only as the Great Collapse wiped them out, leading humanity into the Dark Ages.
Oh, you got an easy one. The Septian Church. The Septian Church, which is centered around the worship of the goddess of the sky, Eidios, is the most widespread religion in Zemuria.
We're gonna get comments. We're gonna get comments. It's Eidios.
Shit. Sorry. Would you like me to retake that?
No, it's fine. Please delete your comment.
The church was formed to guide the lost and hopeless after the Great Collapse. Its high seat is in the holy city of Arteria. Although its influence has decreased since the Orbital Revolution, it still has a significant presence in the continent's education and health systems. The church is composed of a number of divisions, 2 of which are the Congregation for Divine Worship and the Congregation for the Sacraments. The former handles all liturgical matters. I knew I was going to screw that up when I saw liturgical.
That's a bad sentence.
While the latter is in charge of retrieving and managing artifacts, relics of the Zemurian civilization. Rumor has it the latter also employs a special unit of highly skilled knights in secret, but for what purpose?
The Bracer Guild. A private group that works to ensure the peace and safety of the citizens of Zemuria. Its members are known as Bracers, and its main HQ is located in Lemon. I don't recall if I've heard that said out loud. Though it has branches all over the continent. Though its mission statement of giving priority to the safety of civilians is laudable, unless a civilian's life or freedom is directly threatened, the Guild's code prevents Brazers from interfering with anyone of national, military, or political standing, until they just do.
Mm-hmm.
What's more, a string of bombings took place at the Erebonian branches a few years ago, severely impacting the Guild's ability to operate there. However, rumors say that both the government and prominent noble houses found their existence a nuisance, and that their interference was the true force behind the Guild's troubles in Erebonia.
Oh, let's see how I do with German. Jaeger Corps. A term used for skilled mercenary groups who can be found all over the continent. The flexibility in their contracts and their undeniable combat skill make them a popular choice as private armies in some countries. There are other countries, however, that staunchly oppose their use. Two names well known in West Zemuria are the Red Constellation, who had their origins in the Berserkers of the Middle Ages, and Zephyr, home to all sorts of combat specialists and people named after animals. Other notable names include the Northern Jaegers, based out of Northumbria, and Nidhogg, who bear the symbol of a dragon.
Alright. And another easy one, I'm sure. Ouroboros. A secret society that operates throughout the continent. Almost everything about them remains a mystery. Ruled by their enigmatic Grand Master, their plans are devised by the Seven Angui and carried out by special agents known as enforcers. I'm pretty sure that was right. I'm pretty sure they did say that one out loud in Cold Steel 1.
I've only read it.
It was the scene where they revealed Vita Clotilde.
Gotcha.
Their engineering network, known as the 13 Factories, keeps them one step ahead of modern technology, giving them access to autonomous weapons known as archaisms, and a massive flagship known as the Glorious. Haven't seen that one in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Not only were they responsible for the crisis in Liberl a few years ago, resulting in their acquisition of the Auriel, one of the Septarion, they also assisted with bringing the Azure Tree and Infernal Castle into the world. They aren't infallible, though, as their phantasmal blaze plan was stolen out from under them by Gileath Osborne. Phantasmal blaze plan is just such an excellent series of words. It delights me every time I see it. Having made an enemy out of the greatest military force on the continent, how will they proceed from here? How indeed. That bird is just jamming out down there. Also, I don't recognize the one on the top right. I wonder if it's new for this game or if it was one of the cross bells. So I have not been catching. I have not played. We're gonna play Crossbell on our own time, and it's just spoilers are gonna happen or not. But one of us just decided to burn through the whole of Zero like almost immediately after we started. Someone decided that.
Someone's sleep schedule is fucked, because 12 hours straight.
Anyway. Return. Countries of Zemuria.
The Empire of Erebonia. Located in the westernmost part of Zemuria, this gigantic empire bears a golden stallion on its crest. Its current emperor is Eugent Rice Arnor III. Though Erebonia is a nation of history and tradition with a strict class system, the country is currently undergoing a modernization under Chancellor Gileath Osborne. Between its national armed forces, the Imperial Army, and private provincial armies at the command of the nobles ruling each province, Erebonia is one of the most powerful nations in Zemuria alongside Calvard. In October of the year 1204, Chancellor Osborne was shot, signaling the start of the Civil War as Heimdall was taken by the noble faction. 2 months later, on December 31st, a ceasefire was reached, ending the war. Soon after, Erebonia invaded Crossbell State for destroying Garrelia Fortress, seizing it in a mere day. After fighting off forces sent from Calvard, it was formally announced in March of 1205 that Crossbell would be annexed into Erebonia.
The Republic of Calvard. A sprawling republic located east of Crossbell, in which a democracy was established about 100 years ago. Its current leader is President Rocksmith. The country covers a large area and, due to its policy of freely accepting immigrants from the east, has a diverse cultural background as well. Its long-standing rivalry with Erebonia has led to a number of clashes between them, particularly over ownership of Crossbell. After Erebonia's occupation of Crossbell in 1205, Calvard rallied its forces in response, but were eventually fought back by the Empire's panzer soldats. Erebonia soon declared that it would be annexing Crossbell, making it the largest nation in Zemuria, and leaving Calvard in a precarious situation.
The Kingdom of Liberl. A kingdom in the southwestern part of Zemuria. Though a monarchy, it has no class system, and its ruler, Queen Alicia II, is a staunch advocate for peace. It's also the home of Professor Russell, one of Professor Epstein's disciples. Historically one of the most advanced countries on the continent, it was the first to deploy orbital airships. 10 years ago, Erebonia invaded in what's now known as the 100 Days War. Though outnumbered, Liberl's clever use of airships pushed back the Empire's army. Seemingly a magnet for trouble, the country was also caught up in one of Ouroboros' plans. This resulted in the reactivation of the Liber Arc, causing all orbital technology for miles to cease functioning. The incident was eventually settled by the efforts of Liberl's Royal Army, the Bracer Guild, and a certain individual from Erebonia. Fully aware of the rising tensions in Zemuria due to the Crossbell.
Tensions, all right. That guy's involved. Sorry. Go ahead.
Fully aware of the rising tensions in Zemuria due to the Crossbell conflict and comments that certain individuals keep making.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist that one.
Liberl can do little more than strive to maintain the peace it desires.
You know he wouldn't stop. Principality of Remiferia. I believe that, this and North Ambria are the only ones that don't have games yet.
Yeah, it's very funny that you accidentally set yourself up to get all the mystery ones.
A principality located in the northwestern part of Zemuria. Its current head of state is Prince Albert von Bartholomeus. Wow. Much like Liberl, it has done away with its class system. Though it boasts little national or military power, it is home to a number of medical manufacturers, making it Zemuria's authority on medical treatment. It's on good terms with both Erebonia and Calvard, and has the same desire for peace as Liberl. It even provided support to North Ambria after the disaster there.
Crossbell State. An autonomous state, formerly, located in the center of western Zemuria, Crossbell sits between the Erebonian Empire and the Calvard Republic. While established as an autonomous state 70 years ago, its two neighbors still dispute its ownership. Crossbell City
I kind of wonder if it's not if this was just like an old file that they just also reused.
It would definitely not surprise me. This was a book in one of the early Cold Steels, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Crossbell City itself is... We can't afford to buy new textbooks at the branch campus.
That's fair. That's fair. It does suck here.
Oh, Crossbell City itself has since become one of the continent's key centers of commerce. Its international bank has funded a number of projects, ranging from tourism efforts such as theme parks, there's only one, to new infrastructure like the Orbital Network. In spite of this, it holds little power due to both Erebonia and Calvert's stakes in its taxes, creating all sorts of problems within the state. This led to Crossbell declaring independence, using supernatural aid to fight back the two countries that had pressured it for so long, and as a result, Erebonia's Gorelia fortress was wiped out, leading to the Erebonian Civil War. After the war, Crossbell was taken over with little issue, and Rufus Alberea was named its first Governor General.
Good old Rufus. He's the guy you want to be in charge. North Ambria State. An autonomous state with an extremely cold climate, located in the northwestern reaches of Zemuria. Once a principality, it was hit by a disaster 20 years ago that enveloped half the country in salt. This led to a coup wherein democracy was established and the nation reformed into an autonomous state. Extreme poverty persisted through the country, however, leading the former military to form a Jaeger Corps known as the Northern Jaegers. They then took part in private wars all over the country to provide funding for the state. The Northern Jaegers were hired by Duke Alberea during Erebonia's Civil War, and, under his orders, were responsible for setting fire to Keldic. I remember that.
Same.
Alright, and Erebonia's 5 major cities?
Heimdall.
Hi, I'm Dal.
We can't even risk that. A city boasting close to 1,000 years of history, it's the capital of Erebonia and one of the oldest cities on the continent. With over 800,000 citizens, it's also the most densely populated city in West Zemuria. It earned its nickname of the Vermilion Capital due to the red brick buildings that line its streets. A major station on the country's flourishing railroad line, the city itself also operates orbital trams, though personal automobiles are also becoming more prevalent. To the north of the city lies Valflame Palace, home to both the Imperial family and the Imperial government. Its sheer scale is representative of the enormity of the Empire. During the war, the city was occupied by the Noble Alliance, and right before the end, Valflame Palace was transformed into a terrifying edifice. Mysteriously enough, the latter event seems to have vanished from the populace's memories.
Wow, that's convenient.
No kidding.
Bereahard. The capital of the Kreutzen province, ruled by the Alberea family. Known as the Verdant City, it is home to all manner of tradesmen, from jewelers to tailors. Duke Alberea's actions during the war led to its occupation by the Imperial Army, and following his arrest, Eustace Alberea was selected as its acting ruler. Alright.
Ruhr. The capital of the Norcia province, ruled by the Rogner family. With a modern cityscape befitting the home of the Reinford Group's main office, it's well suited to its title of the industrial metropolis. It's also home to the Ruhr Institute of Technology, from which many prevalent scientists and engineers have graduated. Marquis Rogner and his daughter Angelica squared off here during the war, leading to the Rogner family's withdrawal from the Noble Alliance.
Saint Arc. The capital of the Sutherland province, ruled by the High Arms family. Its history is almost as rich as Heimdall's, and, due to a previous emperor relocating the center of Erebonia there for a time, it is also known as the Old Capital. It is one of the few major cities in Erebonia to be blessed with little to no conflict during the war, thanks to Marquis High Arms' command. I'm sure he's the swell guy.
I see a render in the background, which means we'll probably see it soon. Ordis.
I believe we will be seeing the rest of the country in this one.
Cool.
And then the next one will be more open, more freeform, as it tends to do when you're playing games not called Crossbell.
The capital of the Lomar province, ruled by the Cayenne family. Located by the seaside, it is the center of West Zemuria's maritime commerce. The fortunes gathered here became a crucial source of Duke Cayenne's power. Its ties to Duke Cayenne and the nearby naval fortress made it the ideal stronghold for the Noble Alliance during the Civil War and an excellent place to set the prologue of your game.
Return. Alright, next up we have Erebonian organizations, such as Thor's Military Academy. Ooh. Only those people ever attended Thor's. An academy founded by the Emperor, Dreikels the Lionheart himself. Located in Trista, it has become renowned for putting out a number of excellent prospects from both the nobility and commoners. Members of the imperial family are also known to attend. With a strict adherence to tradition, its classes are split between social ranks, promoting an environment of competition for the sake of self-improvement. However, one member of the imperial family proposed an idea for a new class, Class 7, a group composed of students from all kinds of classes and backgrounds. This class would go on to solve a number of issues across Erebonia, ultimately helping to end the Civil War. Unfortunately, their time together following the war's end would be short.
I kind of like one of us pitching that these might just be old textbooks, because that's what I'm starting to feel. This is the imperial curriculum, not mentioning that person over and over.
You know, there were a number of graduates that had lots of notoriety.
Rhineford Company.
The R Company.
One of the largest manufacturers in Zemuria, Rhineford began by producing gunpowder-based weapons, but has since expanded to include railways, airships, and all manner of weapons, dominating the marketplace. Its current chairman is Irina Rhineford, who forced her father out of power before proceeding to greatly expand the company. This led to its individual factories becoming independent of one another. As a result, the Noble Alliance was able to have their flagships and Panzer Soldats developed for use in the Civil War. I don't speak German. Following the end of the war, it agreed to the government's request for a restructuring, allowing the company to grow even larger in order to meet demands for further weapon development.
To be fair, I doubt it's actually pronounced Panzer in German. So.
God. Yeah.
But it's pronounced that way here, and so we're gonna do it. The Imperial Army. The Imperial Army directly serves Erebonia's government. Composed of over 20 tank-based armored divisions and hundreds of thousands of soldiers, it is the largest and most powerful military force in Zemuria. The increase in high-ranking officials from commoner backgrounds caused strife between it and the nobility's provincial armies, which came to a head in the Civil War. The war ended with the Imperial Army's victory, further strengthening it with new equipment and weapons in the aftermath.
The Provincial Armies. The Provincial Armies are the personal military forces of the four great houses. Though not as unified as the Imperial Army, they're just as formidable. Their elite are selected to join the Imperial Guard, tasked with defending the palace. Their size varies by region, but even the smallest provincial armies rival most smaller countries' entire militaries. United under the Noble Alliance's banner during the Civil War, they employed Panzer Soldats to fight off the Imperial Army.
Railway Military Police. A recent branch of the military formed by Chancellor Osborne. Home to a plethora of gifted troops backed by the latest in equipment, their reach stretches as far as the country's railroads do. They are regularly a thorn in the provincial army's sides, as they have the priority when it comes to incidents on land where the railroads operate. They provided backup to the Imperial Army during the Civil War while also retaliating against the Noble Alliance forces' railroad usage.
The Intelligence Division. another organization formed by Chancellor Osborne. Very little is publicly known about its operating procedures or agents who work largely in secret. Its purview stretches far and wide, both within and outside the country. This includes the Four Great Houses, Calvard, other countries, and even the Bracer Guild and Jaeger Corps. Its agents are skilled in information warfare and irritating the hell out of people, making them a valuable asset in negotiations. There seem to be some girls with special weapons among their number.
Alright. Return. And now, the easy part. Erebonian history.
Sorry, those being the 2 chapters.
And those are the only 2 things that ever happened here. The War of the Lions. A war that swept up the entirety of Erebonia 250 years ago. It began when the rightful heir to the throne was assassinated. 4 potential successors then went to war, each backed by powerful nobility, resulting in years of bloodshed. Dreikels, 3rd son of the late emperor and born of a commoner mother, soon took up arms in Nord and went on to bring the conflict to an end, saving countless people along the way. With the war over, he succeeded the throne and helped re-establish the country's former glory. This led to him being called the Lionheart Emperor and Father of the Renaissance. That's a new one.
I also don't recall that.
Of those who sided themselves with Dreikels, none were more renowned than the lance-mated Leanne Sandlot, who is definitely not still alive and under a different name. She led an elite group of warriors known as the Eisenritter and, after her death, was canonized as a saint of the Septian Church. It could be a clone. I don't know. I got suspicions about Arian Rod. Got theories.
Okay. Well, we'll have to find out about those.
We will find out.
For now, let's talk about witches and gnomes. I like to imagine this is the only other lesson Reen has given as the history teacher. 2 groups who have made their impact on Erebonian history from behind the scenes. The Hexen clan are a coven of witches, treated as both benevolent and evil in folklore. They played a part in the War of the Lions, and also seem to know the truth behind the Divine Knights in the Infernal Castle. Witches possess vast amounts of mana, have personal familiars, and are led by someone with the title of Elder. As for the gnomes, their whereabouts and role remain a complete mystery.
We've never
All
met
that's
one.
known, yeah, except for one obvious guy. All that's known is that they had built the spirit shrines scattered throughout Erebonia, and that they had constructed the Divine Knights from a special ore.
Alright. Return. And there we go. That's the world introduction. I feel introduced.
Agreed.
Let's hop over. Altina is not impressed with us right now. She's just like, ugh.
We just called her a girl with a strange device. I can't imagine why she would be a little pissed.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't actually have another one. Right. Current events. Whoop. Let's see if I can get the proper image here. There we go. Nope, it zooms out. Okay. The Four Great Houses. The Four Great Houses is a collective term for the storied families who rule the 4 Erebonian provinces. Each controls a private provincial army and commands respect second only to the Arnor family. Although the four run their nearly country-sized provinces in accordance with the Empire's class system, their influence has declined since the Civil War.
The 100 Days' War. The 100 Days' War was a war of aggression waged by the Empire against the Liberal Kingdom in 1192. Wow, I'm really surprised we described it that way in the textbooks. The name is drawn from the 100 days between the start of the war and its church-mediated end. Initially, Liberl appeared to be at a significant disadvantage, with the Empire occupying a majority of their territory, but a single operation using the then new patrol airships turned the tide of battle. The reasoning for the war is not public knowledge, but the Erebonian Empire has since formally apologized to Liberl, calling the war a mistake born from an unfortunate misunderstanding.
Just a whoopsie-dipsy is what it was. A little oops. We slipped and invaded you. Darn. Non-Aggression Pact. The Non-Aggression Pact was an international treaty proposed by Queen Alicia II and signed in 1202 by the Liberl Kingdom, Erebonian Empire, and Calvard Republic in Liberl's Erba Royal Villa. We'll go with that.
That's how I would have.
While not legally binding, the pact has had a powerful effect, bringing an end to large-scale Erebonian and Calvardian military exercises near Crossbell, and decreasing tensions between each nation. Sure.
Oh, Phantom Thief B! B is an elusive thief who has stolen everything, from jewels to orbital tanks, from people and organizations across Zemuria. His strange, almost beautiful methods have given rise to a small, dedicated fan base.
This is just written on a card stuck in there.
No kidding. Though he sends messages to his intended targets and makes public appearances clad in a white cape and mask, B's identity remains a mystery. He calls his recent unusual thefts the liberation of beauty.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I had to ham that one up.
No, you did. You did. It was the right call. Jaeger Corps. Incredibly skilled mercenary groups, which can be found all over the continent, are known as Jaeger Corps. I guess we did cover this, but it's fine. Due to their combat proficiency and their willingness to take on morally gray contracts, they are often used as private armies. As such, several countries have passed laws against their hire and use.
The October War.
Yeah, so it's not like identical between this and the main menu, but we don't need to go through all of it again.
A 2-month-long civil war between the Noble Alliance and the Imperial Army that began in October 1204 with the occupation of Heimdall by the Noble Alliance's forces. The war ended in the Imperial Army's favor, and Duke Cayenne, Lord of the Lamar province, was arrested as the supreme leader of the Noble Alliance.
Alright. Hi.
Ugh.
I mean, I can put on another one. We got more. It's here. How do
I hadn't noticed it was Ride Along Ozzy.
Yeah, it's a Ride Along Ozzy. Let Ozzy come along.
Ugh.
Where's Mushy Head? I should wear it. There we go. Alright. Got the Demartian head.
I kind of love this weird little thing, though. These are some of my favorite enemies in this series.
They're very stupid.
Yeah.
Rhineford Company. The Rhineford Company was initially a gunpowder-based weapons manufacturer based out of the Erebonian Empire, and known for its cannons and heavy firearms. Since the Orbital Revolution, however, it has expanded its operation to include railways and airships. This expansion has made it one of the continent's two largest companies, rivaled only by Calvard's Verne Company. It's basically the same.
Verne Company. The Verne Company is a massive company headquartered in the Calvard Republic.
The end.
Yeah. Like its industrial rival, the Rhineford Company, the Verne Company was a storied arms manufacturer that expanded into orbital research and development after the Revolution. Particularly worth noting are the company's innovative approaches to the development of orbital vehicles such as orbital cars and buses.
ZCF. The Zeiss Central Factory, or ZCF, was founded as the Zeiss Engineering Factory, or ZEF, in Liberal Kingdom's Zeiss City by Professor A. Russell, a disciple of the great Professor Epstein. ZCF was the very first orbment manufacturer to successfully develop an airship. They recently completed work on the high-speed cruiser Arcee, a feather in the cap of the Royal Liberalian Army.
Bracer Guild. The Bracer Guild is a non-governmental organization acting to keep the peace and protect civilians wherever its numerous and continent-spanning branches reach. Its members are known as Bracers, well duh. Its guiding principle, to put the safety of civilians above all else, is both its greatest strength and a handicap, as it cannot involve itself in political matters unless civilians are directly threatened.
You know, we're only still doing these because I screwed up and just selected the first one, but it's kind of funny that we've swapped for like every single one of these that we've read both.
Yeah.
IBC. The International Bank of Crossbell is a large banking organization which manages the vast quantities of money flowing into Crossbell and supports the economies of nations across the continent. The IBC's interests extend beyond banking too. In addition to providing most of the funding for the Epstein Foundation's Orbital Network project, the bank manages theme parks and other similar diversions. And nothing else.
Yeah, I hear there's about to be some kind of conference there where I'm at. The Imperial Chronicle. The Imperial Chronicle is a news organization headquartered in Heimdall. It has built up a reputation as the Empire's most trustworthy news source over the course of its 120-year history. In 1203, in an effort to diversify their news distribution, the company established Imperial Chronicle Radio to supplement their widely read newspaper. Further, starting in 1205, it began a partnership with the Crossbell Times.
All right. Yeah. I like that it's got like little seeds in its mouth as teeth.
They're just so perfectly designed to be comical and yet some of the most pain-in-the-ass casual enemies.
So yeah, it's just all stuff we've already discussed, I think. Gonna look for a new one, I guess. But like, we got it. We understand. Yep. That piano is going crazy. I can't follow it. Yep. Yeah, I think we're good. I mean, there's the recommended reading corner. We can learn about trains. We can learn all about trains.
I'll do one if you'll do one.
You know what? No. You know what? No. Well, we're all right.
All right.
I keep loading this up and like expecting a menu, and then I have to take a moment to realize, oh right, there's icons.
Honestly, it's the horizontal nature of it that screws me up every time coming from the one that's vertical.
Yeah, no, it's like I like have to actively stare at my microphone in order to see it. All right, let's see if we can get the trifecta and we get the Kurt image. Let's see. Is it gonna happen? No. Fantastic.
No such luck, little man.
Sorry, Kurt, you're not cool. All right.
Here's the part where most of you are going to turn this off unless you're expecting us to vamp.
I don't know. We might have things to think. Things to say. Maybe not. I don't know. Did you read the last one?
I'll take this one.
Okay.
Prologue, The Depths of Despair. Heimdall, the capital of Erebonia. Chancellor Osborne's speech was silenced by the sound of a single gunshot ringing throughout the city. The man who pulled the trigger was none other than C, the enigmatic leader of the Imperial Liberation Front. But it was on this day that his identity was finally revealed. Crow Armbrust, a friend and a member of Class 7. With the Chancellor's fall, the Noble Alliance rose and seized control of the city. Thus began a bitter struggle between the Noble Alliance forces and the Imperial Army, the Erebonian Civil War. Not even Thor's military academy was safe from the fighting. Soon after taking Heimdall, the Noble Alliance set its sights on the academy. Thanks to Crow's help, Thor's first line of defense was quickly subdued. Class 7 rushed in to help their instructors, but even they were completely overwhelmed because a mech had a cheat mode that would not appear in any other fight.
Just infinite perfect defense. It's such a load of crap.
True bullshit. Realizing they stood no chance against such an unstoppable bullshit force, they decided to put their lives on the line, all to give Reen a chance to escape. What a plan.
She has a name. Scarlet. I don't know if she's going to be in this one.
Not wanting to leave his friends behind, Reen desperately cried out for them, but Valimar continued to fly him farther away. Before long, his exhaustion and wounds overtook him, and he slipped into unconsciousness where a cat cared for him.
Oh, sorry.
How much time had gone by since that fateful day? I think it was roughly a month. Upon coming to, Reen was instantly racked with frustration and self-loathing. Taking a moment to survey his new surroundings, he quickly realized he was somewhere in the Isengard mountain range and went, "Hey, I killed a wolf here." He also noticed Valimar silently kneeling nearby. Celine as well. She had been there the whole time, waiting for Reen to regain consciousness.
I wonder if maybe she was eating the toads.
The familiar relayed the situation to a still confused and panicking Reen.
Yes, including the fact that she is a familiar. I believe that's when this came up.
I think it was our first time we officially heard that word, yes.
Because in the previous game, it was just like at the very last minute, "What, you can talk?" And we were like, "Yes, Reen."
A month had passed since that fateful day he was torn from his friends. See, I do remember these details. On top of that, it was now impossible to return to the place he'd last seen them. Reen immediately began to make his way down from the mountain, spurred by his concern for their well-being. Caught between worry and frustration, he was in no mood to respond to any of Celine's attempts to speak with him, which was kind of dickish, because who else was he going to have a dialogue with?
I mean, yeah, but she was also being a dick, so...
But their descent came to a sudden stop as they came face to face with a terrifying foe, a model that would receive reuse for 2 games. A weapon not seen since the Dark Ages, a magic knight. Reen put up a valiant fight, yet was unable to best the Colossus on his own. Showing no pity for its struggling opponent, the magic knight raised its blade to deliver the final blow. But at the last moment, its mighty swing was interrupted, one might say impeded, by a powerful orbal art. The magic knight was thrown off balance and tumbled over the edge of the cliff, plummeting down the sheer mountain face.
It would be cool if we could do something like that in an actual battle.
Well, we are going to have mech combat soon.
Yeah, it's just thinking about it, like environmental stuff has never actually come up in any of these games that I can think of.
Reen's savior was none other than the bracer Toval. With him were Princess Alphen and Reen's sister, Elise. With their appearance, the tension that had been keeping Reen going vanished, and he collapsed in exhaustion. When his eyes opened once more, he was greeted with a familiar sight, that of his own room. He was back home in Ymir. The sights and sounds of his hometown brought back a flood of memories. After Reen had recovered, Toval and the others filled him in on everything that had happened over the past month. It was then that his hopes were confirmed. Though they had been scattered and their whereabouts unknown, his friends were still safe. Once their discussion was over, Reen paid a visit to the local hot spring in order to collect his thoughts. I've got thoughts on the image they chose here.
And she's just holding his hand. It's just friendly.
Now is the time to figure out his next move. Yet no matter how much he racked his brain, no solutions came to him. None of this would have happened if he had been strong enough to fight off the Noble Alliance forces, strong enough to protect his friends. As he assaulted himself with such harsh thoughts, Elise appeared and gave him some much-needed encouragement. Thanks to her, he was able to remember that in making sure he got away, his friends had each placed their faith in him.
I mean, from what I recall, the scene was basically stop being sad, dumbass.
Yes, it was, and I think that's one of the 2 times I will ever praise Elise. As Reen thought back to each of their faces, he realized not one of them had given up. Believing in the faith his friends had given him was just the motivation Reen needed. He resolved to search the country until he had reunited with every last one of them. These were not so dense describing the chapters from Cold Steel 1.
It started not that dense, but I think by the end it got there.
Okay.
Like chapter 7 was or the last one was like 8 times longer than the first couple combined.
However, the flames of war were upon him again before he knew it. Please ignore the ice. While on an expedition outside of the town, the group was paid a visit by the Witch of the Abyss, Vita Clotilde. She had appeared to give them a warning, though the sound of gunfire coming from Ymir was proof it had come too late.
That was funny. She just didn't care.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing, actually. She really got to have some fun in her role. Rushing back to the town, the group found it besieged by Jaegers who had been hired by Duke Alberea of the 4 Great Houses.
Oh no, he spilled his juice.
The town was in a panic in an attempt to...
It was definitely more red in the game, right?
It definitely was, because I don't remember either of us going, oh, boysenberry jam. In an attempt to protect his people, Reen's father tried to fight the Jaegers, but ended up sustaining a severe wound that you can't tell where it's at because we've just made everything. That's redder! Seeing this, a roar of rage and despair burst forth from Reen, echoing throughout the town as he went Super Saiyan when Krillin died. Driven by hatred, he lost himself in his power and ruthlessly dispatched the Jaegers. Fortunately, Elise's intervention and the news that Baron Schwarzer was still alive were able to bring Reen back to his senses. There was little time for relief, however, as Vita showed herself once more. Apologizing for the incident, she made it clear to them that this was the result of Duke Alberea acting on his own.
Sawi uwu.
As a show of good faith, she casually erased the Jaeger's memories of having found the town and cast a spell that would keep it safe for a time.
I don't recall her doing that second part.
This strange moment of kindness caught the group off guard. Also, I'm pretty sure she didn't actually cast that spell, given what I remember happening later.
Yeah.
Just long enough for a girl in black riding a strange puppet to swoop down on them. Said puppet bore a striking resemblance to Milliam's Ergetlum. Hey, who's a Milliam? We don't know yet.
Huh. If we'd gone through the recap of the first game, maybe we would know.
Fair. The girl in black moved too quickly for anyone to react. And before they knew it, she had seized both Elise and Alphen. Unable to chase after them, all Reen could do was assure them that he'd come to their aid. He swore to himself he would keep this promise and reunite with his friends, no matter what. Now the Sonic Underground song is stuck in my head. Thanks. With that vow lingering in his heart, he set off into a war-torn Erebonia.
This does seem to be more heavily written than before.
I guess when you break it down only into each act and things, that makes sense, but also, holy crap.
So yeah, by the way, just a thing to mention here, since this one is going to go longer, obviously, the main videos are going to be an hour and a half each. So when you look at this and see like a 3.5 hour runtime or whatever, that's not going to be the standard. Just FYI.
We might actually just hit an hour and a half at this rate. Let's see.
Act 1, Ashen Chronicles. Well, we're already at 55 minutes, so. Ashen Chronicles. Soon after Reen found the resolve he needed to search for his missing friends, Elise and Alphen were kidnapped by the Noble Alliance. Swearing to save them, he made Ymir his base of operations in his search for his comrades. The group's first destination was the lively market town of Keldic. Upon arrival, it became clear they would need to tread carefully to avoid the watchful gaze of the Noble Alliance forces occupying the city. Ugh. Aw. But following a set of clues to a windmill just outside town, Reen was ultimately able to reunite with Machias, Elliot, and Fee. Overjoyed to see one another again, they took some time to exchange information on what had happened since they were last together, and what their next move should be. It was decided that they would try to find a way to the Gorelia Proving Ground, where the 4th Armored Division was stationed. In doing so, they would learn both the state of the Imperial Army and the overall situation with the war. Understanding the importance of this, they set off. Slipping past the tight surveillance at a Noble Alliance checkpoint, they followed the railroad tracks and reached the ruins of Gorelia Fortress. In awe of the gaping crater where the fortress once stood, they didn't have time to continue onward to the Proving Ground before coming under attack. You ready, kiddos? To make matters worse, their foes were an especially formidable pair. Before them stood Trap Master Zeno and Leonidas the Behemoth, regimental commanders of Zephyr, the Jaeger Corps Fee grew up in. That's a hell of a sentence. The group put everything they had into fighting the 2 combat specialists. A brief clash wasn't enough to drive them away, though. Both of the Jaegers seemed prepared to use their full power in round 2.
Now that you've played those games, these two are just Kingdom Hearts characters.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like...
We've both got funny weapons you'll never see in the real world.
As long as we don't have to fight Data Zeno.
Ugh.
Before they could, however, the battle was interrupted. Right, yes. By a squad of Noble Alliance soldiers in Panzer Soldats that talk like this.
They did have a pretty terrible robot filter on those guys.
It wasn't a filter, it was just somebody doing that. They were planning to launch a surprise attack on the Proving Ground. But I'd need water after that. Okay. But in doing so, they happened to stumble upon Class 7's battle with the Jaegers. The commander of the squad ordered Zeno and Leo to get out of their way. Though annoyed, the two obliged, choosing to watch what would come next from afar. In their place, Class 7 now faced a squad of fully armed Panzer Soldats. Reen was able to fend them off by summoning Valimar, but their greater numbers still gave them the advantage. Just when the situation seemed the most dire, a hearty roar reverberated through the battle, turning the situation on its head. Its owner was Elliot's father, Lieutenant General Craig, standing tall atop a tank.
That is a pretty good summary of that scene.
The 4th Armored Division followed behind him, launching a full frontal assault on the Noble Alliance troops. What's more, the Railway Military Police, led by Captain Claire herself, arrived to provide backup. With their aid, the Noble Alliance was swiftly repelled. And thus, Class 7 was able to rendezvous with the 4th Armored Division. As a result, they were able to receive key information from Lieutenant General Craig himself. According to him, the Imperial Army was making a steady recovery, but had little info regarding the situation near Heimdall. He ended by suggesting the students stay with him and the Imperial Army, but Reen's priority lay in reuniting with the rest of Class 7. With that settled, the group set off toward their next destination. This time, they aimed for the Nord Highlands, situated at the northern part of the border between Erebonia and Calvard. According to Lieutenant General Zex Vander, the Noble Alliance and Calvard's army had joined forces to attack the Imperial Army's forces in the area. What's more, the watchtower had been occupied and was being used to jam any attempts to call for reinforcements. As things stood, it was only a matter of time before the gate the Imperial Army was defending fell. Hug 2. At the same time, the group also learned that the members of their class who were there were fighting to protect the people of Nord.
I'm here and I'm old.
I'm Gaius. Following, I don't know why I did that voice for Gaius. It's weird.
It's pretty good.
I'm Elliot. I'm transparent, actually. If you look at me closely, I'm kind of transparent right now. Help. Following after them.
Make sure my parents bone.
We're not time traveling.
That's the only thing I can think of why he'd be transparent.
Following after them, the group was finally able to reunite with Gaius, Elisa, and Milliam. Wanting to repay the people of Nord for taking them in, they had been planning to retake the watchtower. Upon hearing about this, Reen and the others were more than willing to help. They successfully executed their assault on the watchtower, and were able to reach the jamming device on its roof. Then a really annoying boss fight ensued.
Holy crap, I think this might have been the one we had to redo the most.
I don't think we had to redo it, but it took a while.
I think we did at least 2 tries because she gibbed us.
Possible. She kept pulling up her barriers, and it was just like, Altina, please.
Mm-hmm.
What they hadn't planned for, however, was that Altina, the mysterious girl who had kidnapped Elise, would be waiting there for them. Standing at her side was one of Ouroboros' enforcers, Blue Blanc.
Woohoo!
After briefly exchanging words, the two groups engaged in a fierce battle. The tide seemed to be in Class 7's favor, yet said tide turned when Blue Blanc employed his shadow weaving technique to immobilize them. Why do we use a tide metaphor in the middle of that complicated sentence? This left Reen with no choice but to rely on the strange power within him. Yet, just as he steeled himself to do so, a brilliant gleam shot through the watchtower's rooftop. Class 7 was suddenly freed from the shadow weaving by a series of metal wires. Their savior stood above them, looking down. It was Sharon Kruger, another enforcer of Ouroboros and current maid of the Reinfer family.
What a hilarious sentence if you just find this out for the first time.
And she's got a knife. She's got a hell of a knife, actually, looking at that.
She's got a knife that has an eye and looks like a tiny version of the Soul Edge.
With her on Class 7's side, their victory would be assured. Or so they thought, but Panzer Soldats belonging to the Noble Alliance forces returned to the Watchtower soon after. I thought that sentence would be shorter when I started that. Reen wasted no time in summoning Valimar and made quick work of them. Having witnessed Valimar in action, LeBlanc and Altina bade their farewells and retreated. With no foes left to stand in their way, Class 7 was successfully able to remove the jamming device from the watchtower. With this, the immediate threat to Nord was settled. With their job finished in Nord, Class 7 set its sights on the lakeside town of Legram. Asking around, they discovered supernatural occurrences had been reported in the nearby Lohengrin Castle. It was just Emma. Arriving there, they met up with Laura and Emma, who had gone ahead to assess the situation. Together, the reunited classmates made quick work of the issue. On their way back, Emma confessed to the group her true identity as a member of the Hexen clan. She believed she had no right to remain a part of Class 7 after keeping such an important detail secret. Oh yeah, that weird scene where she took off her glasses and she was like, should I keep them on or not?
Yeah, that was a choice.
Reen, however, felt differently. He pointed out she wasn't the only one in the group who had hidden their special circumstances. No kidding. And even taking those into account, he was confident that their class was the finest Erebonia had to offer. That recognition was the small yet powerful push Emma needed. And with that, there was only one member of their class left to find. Eustace.
Also, a cat chewed her out for like 5 minutes.
Their search led the group to Bereahard, a pivotal location for the Noble Alliance forces, and ruled by the Alberea family. Following Eustace's guidance, the group finally reunited with him in an airship stationed outside the city. However, his family's actions and position in the Noble Alliance weighed heavily on Eustace's mind. Feeling bound by his duty as a noble and guilty over the wrongs his family had committed, he claimed it was impossible for him to rejoin his former classmates. Hearing this, Reen posed a question. What were Eustace's personal feelings on the matter? Reen's pointed questions brought Eustace back to his senses. Reen's pointed question brought Eustace back to his senses, but something was still causing him hesitation. He requested a duel between himself and Reen. Reen accepted, and they proceeded to lock blades with each other. I don't think it was quite that immediate. We had to go out to a field to meet.
Yeah, we had to foot race him first.
Though the battle was close, Reen was eventually able to beat Eustace. Through this battle, Eustace finally gained the determination he needed to stand against his family and rejoin his friends. As always, though, things didn't proceed quite so smoothly. Before they could finish their celebrations, 2 agents of Ouroboros made their presence known.
Oh right, Best Boy.
Best Boy. One was Duvalie the Swift, head knight of the Stallritter. The other was McBurn, known as the Almighty Conflagration, and arguably the Society's mightiest member. They had been dispatched to restrain Class 7, leaving the group with little choice but to fight. But despite the students' best efforts, the difference in power between them was just too great. Just as all hope seemed lost, a familiar voice rung out above them. Dropping into the scene in a blaze of her namesake purple lightning was none other than Sarah Purple Lightning Valestine, former A-rank bracer and Class 7's homeroom teacher.
Do we actually know how she does the lightning thing?
I don't think it's ever come up.
Okay.
With her in the picture, McBurn's motivation to fight was set ablaze. Another clash seemed unavoidable, but was interrupted by the arrival of yet another party. This time, it was dumbass Duke Alberea, accompanied by a squad of Panzer soldats. He had come in pursuit of his son, Eustace. Their appearance doused McBurn's enthusiasm, causing him and a distraught Duvally to leave. Duvally was just there, I guess. So, she didn't do much.
She was flustered.
She's always flustered. With that, the only foes left to oppose Class 7 were Duke Alberea's soldats. Calling upon Valimar once more, Reen made short work of them. Once done, they wasted no time in leaving Bereahard through the Spirit Path, which we were mentioning just now. Eustace bid his outraged father farewell before vanishing with the rest of his classmates. Right? They didn't mention the Spirit Path, they just said he went there.
Yeah.
Alright. With another challenge safely overcome, Class 7 had, with one exception, finally reunited. After returning to Ymir and celebrating this feat, they gathered to decide their plans from there on. After much discussion, they agreed they would act as a third party, one affiliated with neither the Imperial Army nor the Noble Alliance. I can't say either of those right now. However, they weren't able to decide what they wanted to accomplish by forming this third faction, so they had insufferable meetings about it.
Yeah, much like the writers who clearly did not know what they were trying to accomplish with this plot.
In the midst of their discussion, a voice rang out through the room, one they'd rather have not heard at such a time. Well, doesn't this look fun? I think it was Rufus? No, it was Cayenne. Mind if I join in? Oh, it was Vita. A projection. Cayenne was definitely in that scene, though.
Yes, like 7 people show up immediately. I just forget who spoke first.
A projection of Vita appeared before them, accompanied by the roar of a massive engine. One look out the window was enough to make its source clear. The Pantagruel, the Noble Alliance's flagship, was hovering above the town. The group rushed outside to assess the situation, just in time to see Crow descending from the ship in Ordine. Accompanying him were Zephyr, members of Ouroboros, and Rufus. Desperate to protect his hometown, Reen piloted Valimar to fight Crow. Yet, in the end, he was barely able to put a scratch on him. The rest of Class 7 took up arms as well, but Rufus single-handedly dispatched them with similar ease. I'm pretty sure I won that fight. Bullshit.
Yeah, there's quite a few of those, really.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking of, this image. After making it crystal clear that they lacked the means to oppose him, Duke Cayenne revealed the reason for his visit. He had come to invite Reen aboard the Pantagruel. Should Reen acquiesce, the Noble Alliance would stay away from Ymir for the remainder of the war. Despite their misgivings, the group had little choice but to accept. And thus, Reen made his way aboard the Titanic ship. Alright, why don't I just do the intermission as well? And then we switch off to you for Act 2.
Okay, I was going to say I should do intermission and act, but yeah, go ahead. We'll split on the other two, yeah.
Yeah. Well, depending on how... I can hop in for some of this if need be. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
My voice will hold up.
Intermission aboard the Pantagruel. Yeah, I recently switched to a job where I don't talk nearly as much, and so it's starting to show. After being strong-armed into coming aboard by Duke Cayenne, Reen found himself in the expansive halls of the Pantagruel. The Duke's goal in doing so was to have the opportunity to invite Reen to join the Noble Alliance. With Chancellor Osborne out of the picture, his priority lay in ending the war as swiftly as possible, or so he claimed. A goal which could be accomplished with much more ease if Reen agreed to join their ranks. Escorted to a private room to think it all over, Reen found himself at a loss over what to do. In the midst of his thoughts, Crow paid him an unexpected visit. Is it going to bring up the fish burgers? Realizing that he hadn't changed much at all in spite of everything, Reen began to question him. Why did he loathe Chancellor Osborne so much? What led him to form the Imperial Liberation Front? Unable to resist Reen's earnest questions, Crow gave in and agreed to talk.
A scene that would occur 12 times over the course of this intermission.
At a young age, he had lost both his hometown and family to Osborne's schemes. He then wandered the country until he met Duke Cayenne. The two allied over their shared grudge for Osborne, and, funded by the Duke, Crow sought out like-minded people to form the Imperial Liberation Front. During this time, Vita, who had been in contact with Duke Cayenne, guided Crow to become Ordine's Awakener. Finally, he enrolled himself in Thor's as a cover for his true goal: to assassinate Gileath Osborne and rid Erebonia of him once and for all. Though Reen was visibly upset by this story, Crow insisted that he not let it influence his decision. Crow then took his leave, recommending Reen visit the ship's guest of honor room. Reen took the opportunity to wander around the ship, gathering information and speaking to the various people on board, before finally heading to the guest of honor's room. There, he found none other than Princess Alphen. According to her, Elise was currently being held with the rest of the Imperial family. After they briefly exchanged information, Alphen posed a question. Would Reen join the Noble Alliance forces, or would he escape from the ship? Reen, however, did not yet have an answer for her. His heart was telling him not to side with the Noble Alliance under any circumstances. Yet he also felt the desire to end the war as soon as possible, for Elise's sake. Hearing this, Alphen couldn't help but set Reen straight with a heartfelt speech. She told him he shouldn't use Elise as his excuse, not when Elise's greatest desire was for Reen to follow the path he believed in most. Kind of like that.
Pretty close.
This opened Reen's eyes. He finally came to the realization that those he cherished felt the exact same way about him. And then there was this, which I'm still not sure if it was literal or symbolic. And with that realization came further growth. The power he was once unable to control would no longer torment him. The only thing he had left to do was listen to his heart. And his heart's message was loud and clear. He would take Alphen and escape from the airship. With the help of his power, he was able to shake off all who stood in his way, and it was badass.
Mostly through sick jukes.
Thus, they successfully reached the ship's deck. But Crow was already there, waiting for them. This led to a duel between Reen and Crow. No divine knights involved. Alphen was there.
I'm healing.
What a weird picture. Sorry. Reen...
They've chosen some odd ones for this.
Reen was able to use his power to gain the upper hand. And Alphen was still there. But said power ran dry before he could land a decisive blow. What's worse, it gave time for those pursuing him to finally reach the deck, too. With nowhere left to run, the situation couldn't have been any more dire. Suddenly, a red streak zoomed through the skies overhead. The courageous had come to the rescue. A number of trusty allies leapt from the cruiser and landed on the deck of the Pantagruel. Emma teleported herself and the rest of Class 7 aboard as well. Reen was both relieved and stunned at this turn of events, but the biggest surprise had yet to come. Prince Olivert, owner of the Courageous and chairman of Thor's, also made his appearance. With both sides having assembled formidable rosters of equal strength, it was concluded the battle would likely end in a draw. Appearing soon after, Vita suggested that the Noble Alliance take their leave to avoid a pointless battle. Thanks to her intervention, Reen and the others were able to leave the Pantagruel unscathed.
All right. Act 2, The Awakening Lions. With Alphen successfully freed from the Noble Alliance's clutches, the group welcomed her aboard the Courageous. Reen was saved from the perilous situation aboard the Pantagruel thanks to his friends and allies coming to his rescue. Are these written like you're not reading them in a row?
I think so.
Ugh.
It's fine.
In the end, the situation was diffused and both sides cautiously stepped away. With Alphen successfully freed from the Noble Alliance's clutches, the group welcomed her aboard the... You wrote that already!
Look, we might have forgotten. It's been like a whole minute.
Once things were settled, everyone celebrated their various reunions. Alphen introduced herself aboard the Courageous.
What a celebratory picture.
In addition to the princess, the group had also found Prince Olivert, who had been missing since the start of the Civil War, and Viscount Arsaid, Lorsa's?
Nope.
Viscount Arsaid, Laura's father. I will talk no more shit tonight. From there, the group began discussions on the state of the war. Bad. The main topic was one posed by Prince Olivert. What did the members of Class 7 intend to do from here on, and who in this room is currently Phantom Thief B?
That was later.
I know, but they're not going to bring it up. Reen took it upon himself to answer in his classmate's stead. Class 7 had come face to face with the country's many problems during their field studies. And due to that experience, they were uniquely qualified to help the country through its new crisis. No, they kind of weren't.
Nah, not at all, but they did anyway, because anime teens.
Hearing this, Prince Olivert decided, here are the keys to my car. Don't crash it. He intended to travel to Western Erebonia, where the fighting was fiercest, to help. Meanwhile, Eastern Erebonia would be left in Class 7's care. They were given full use of the Courageous, and Toa was named acting captain as the oldest person who was not a legal adult. Claire and Toval also left the group at this point, needing to return to their respective organizations. After seeing them off, the group took Toa's suggestion and narrowed down their goals to a more manageable what and how.
Through horrible meetings.
God, so many meetings. For the former, they decided their first order of business should be to take back Thors from the Noble Alliance. As for the how, they would increase their numbers by finding their fellow students scattered through the country and bringing them on board the ship. Having settled on their new goal, the group put their all into accomplishing it. Sometime after this, they were contacted by Angelica Rogner, whose family belonged to the Noble Alliance forces. According to her, the Rhineford Company had been occupied by her uncle. What's more, Elisa's mother, Irina, was being confined within the building. Oh, I just remembered the other boss that might have been the one that was our most restarts.
Has there ever been a good uncle in this series? Like, there's a lot of hot dads, but have there been any good uncles? We'll put a pin in that.
No. I was scouring Crossbell. Hearing this, the group wasted no time in heading to Roar. Oh, I guess Lloyd's uncle.
It was not. They weren't really related though. It was just like his brother's fiance's parents.
He calls a monkey.
Fair enough.
There they met up with Angelica, who had formed something of a resistance by being gay around town with ladies. She had tried to convince her father to withdraw from the Noble Alliance, but to no avail. Instead, Marquis Rogner told her the only way she could convince him was by force, which was fine by her. Having taken his words to heart, she had begun plans to rid Ruhr of the Noble Alliance well before Class 7 had even arrived. After convincing Angelica to let them help, Class 7's first order of business was to rescue Irina. God, that outfit is still a disaster. Fortunately, Angelica had already located her.
It's business extremely uncasual. Business formal.
Formal in the front? I don't know what word to use in the back.
Business opera formal.
She was being held on a train currently stopped within the Saxon iron mine. After a series of fierce battles with the Jaegers hired to guard her and a chance reunion with Sharon, they successfully freed Irina from her imprisonment. Continuing the momentum from this victory, they rode the train back to the RF building and proceeded to seize it from within.
Begin.
He looks like a chibi. All that remained was Angelica's father, Marquis Rogner. Wishing to settle this on her own, Angelica engaged him in a one-on-one duel with Panzer Soldats. And as the dust settled on the century's greatest family feud... Really? Angelica stood tall as the victor.
Yeah, this is really not that.
Accepting his defeat, Marquis Rogner announced his withdrawal from the war entirely. I think the Albareas had a bigger one. Losing the support of one of the four great houses would prove a heavy blow to the Noble Alliance. As had become the norm, however, things would not proceed quite so smoothly, because you weren't allowed to get a victory in Cold Steel 2.
Oh, are they actually going to bring up Vulcan? Wow. He exists in this recap.
Vulcan, a member of the Imperial Liberation Front, appeared in a gargantuan soldat to challenge Reen. My man brought an armored core to the Code Geass fight. Reen accepted this challenge, hoping to finally bring things to a close. Boy, did they close. While Vulcan's new model of Panzer Soldat proved a difficult foe, Reen was eventually able to best it. However, the battle put a significant strain on the massive Soldat systems, putting it at risk of self-destructing. Vulcan ignored Reen's pleas for him to exit the machine, having already decided this would be his final resting place, and used PTSD on Reen. It was super effective. Finally, the Soldat's engine hit critical, resulting in a massive explosion. When the dust had cleared, there was no trace left of the machine or Vulcan. It would have been really weird if there was trace left of him after that.
Yeah, it would be gross if there was traces left. It's like too gross for the age rating. Also, that would have been way more traumatizing.
Yeah, although it really didn't have much chance to ramp up.
Like, as much as Reen was reeling from this, imagine if he'd, like, his head had landed by Valimar.
Yeah, we would have been in Zeta Gundam territory at that point. This tragic turn of events left a deep scar of regret within Reen's heart. He blamed himself for not saving Vulcan from his fate.
Elliot needled him about it for some fucking reason.
No kidding. But with the situation in Ruhr now under control, the group had to set their sights on their next target, Erebonia's spirit shrines, which we've never mentioned before this point in the game.
Right. Yes. You had to go back and deal with all of this.
In order to collect the pieces of Zemurian ore housed within the shrines. With enough ore, they could create a more powerful weapon for Valimar, which Crow had definitely taunted Reen about once already. However,
it sounds even less like a good idea when it's written like this.
Yeah, this summary probably could have been tightened up a little.
It's what we got, and we're not rewriting it.
No. However, one day they received word from the 4th Armored Division that Keldic had been set ablaze. Under orders from none other than Duke Alberea himself. Eustace attempted to leave the group to confront his father on his own, but the others argued this was something that they needed to handle together. No sooner had they steeled their resolve to act, than they received a message from Rufus. No sooner had they steeled their resolve to act, than they received a message from Rufus. I said steeled.
Cold steeled.
Ugh. I thought I had misspoken the first time.
Nope.
He informed the group that the Noble Alliance took no part in the attack and did not condone the Duke's actions.
And really just wanted him out of the way anyway, and so this was a pretty good opportunity, honestly.
Yeah. He also told them while he would not take direct action against his father, he could not let his actions pass, and you know what? This makes a lot of sense given a later reveal. Knowing Rufus was just using them, Class 7 nonetheless decided to make use of his info and headed to Auroch's fort to restrain Duke Alberea. We're not mentioning that there was only a single casualty in Keldic, but what am I talking about?
You mean Otto?
Otto! No! The only person we buried when the town burned down. With backup from the 4th Armored Division and the RMP, they were able to reach the fort. Once they did, however, they were met by the Imperial Liberation Front Scarlet. Much like Vulcan, she appeared piloting a unique type of Panzer Soldat, one specialized in speed, which presumably would not detonate if beat up.
Yeah, you'd like to think.
Also like Vulcan.
But nonetheless.
Yeah.
You know, spoilers for the recap. But...
Also like Vulcan, she challenged Reen, hoping to find a resting place of her own. Reen, however, refused to allow events to repeat themselves. He accepted her challenge but was determined to prevent her from dying.
Ha!
Though she was a formidable opponent, Reen was able to best her in the end. In a further parallel to Reen's last encounter with a member of the ILF, the strain of the battle caused her Soldat's engine to begin to self-destruct. Without an ounce of hesitation, Reen dashed in, and with a single precise slash, tore off the Soldat's cockpit and leapt away from the explosion.
They should really do something about that.
I think that's why we have new models in Cold Steel 3.
They seem to not be able to take a lot of stress, which is bad for your combat robot.
Though her machine was in pieces, Scarlet herself was unscathed. Reen had saved her. Didn't she, lose a limb?
No, she was just emotionally scarred.
Okay. The group breathed a sigh of relief and headed into the fort. Reen, however, stayed behind to make sure Scarlet was okay. His relief at seeing she was fine was cut short by a familiar voice. It was Crow. He had come out of concern for his last remaining team member.
Not that much concern, not enough concern to stop her, but...
Yeah. Seeing she was safe, he left the group with some parting words of encouragement before flying off. After watching him leave, Reen turned his focus to the fort once more. He arrived just in time to bear witness to the end of Sarah's solo battle against the Northern Jaegers. Having convinced them to leave, Sarah stayed behind to rest because she blew all her craft points on this one battle.
She sure did.
The rest of the group continued on ahead, eventually facing off against Duvali. Class 7 defeated her again, causing her to leave in a huff.
Well, facing off against Duvali and 2 giant robots. I think at this point the game started just adding extra robots to basically every boss.
Yeah. Upon speaking with Duke Alberea, it was clear he had no remorse for his actions, yet he quickly fell into despair upon learning all his allies had abandoned him. Having lost his will to go on, Duke Alberea was arrested by his own son, who was sent there by his other own son. When this was announced, the soldiers still working under the Duke retreated, effectively ending House Alberea's role in the war. The Noble Alliance was shaken by the loss of yet another of the four great houses. In a final gambit, they gathered a majority of their forces around Heimdall. In doing so, they lowered their grip on the rest of the country, however. Trista was one such place affected by this turn of events. As soon as they heard Captain Claire's report, Class 7 knew this was the chance they had been waiting for. Wasting no time, they began their plan to retake the academy with all the students we're not going to name, like horse riders and lacrosse club. Knowing a number of Panzer soldats lurked in the area, Reen charged in with Valimar, making quick work of their foes.
Don't forget Chess Boy.
And Radio Kid.
Ooh, Radio Kid.
Thanks to them, they were able to effortlessly drive back the remnants of the Noble Alliance troops still stationed around Trista.
The aficionado of love stories?
I think you mean material.
Oh, no, I meant Dorothy.
Oh, right. Also, there was a goth somewhere. With peace restored to the town, its residents gave their liberators a warm welcome home. But before they could celebrate, Class 7 still had one more task: freeing the Academy itself. Arriving on the campus, they were greeted by the upper-class students who had been placed in charge of the Academy.
And a butler.
Led by Patrick, they had named themselves the Order of the Lion. Considering themselves Class 7's rivals, they wished to stake their pride and honor on a battle against them. I seem to recall us stomping them really hard.
I think we were stomping them, and then Butler here busted out with the full restore and heal, or full revive and heal entire party spell. And I got mad.
Right, I think I'm thinking of the other battle on the other side of campus. After a fierce clash between the two groups of students, Class 7 proved victorious. Finally acknowledging Reen as an equal, Patrick disbanded the Order of the Lion 10 minutes after its founding, and pledged the upper-class students as support to the courageous.
Elliot's just like, help, I'm fading, please.
He really is phasing out of reality in all of these screenshots.
I would have done it on purpose.
Finally, after all their struggles, the group was able to take back the Academy. Actually, if anyone is getting screwed by this, it's Milliam, whose name has only appeared as, wow, she's got a sister.
I don't think they've even had her in anything other than the big group shots.
No, not once. With all the students of Thor's united under one banner, the Academy now truly represented a third path for Erebonia. Stop that.
Whatever.
No. Forward relentlessly, finale. Having successfully taken back the Academy, the students took some time to celebrate together. This was effectively their prom. The war itself was reaching its climax, however. As a result, the group received a request from the Imperial Army. They asked them to rescue the Imperial family and Elise. The Noble Alliance had been holding them captive at the Karel Imperial Villa. The fact that the students weren't affiliated with either faction made them perfect for this task, did it?
Schmidt, taking up his normal position. It's where he is in every group shot.
Under Toa's command, they flew towards the villa the day after. They weren't alone, however. They were aided in reaching the villa by the Imperial Army's assault on Heimdall. They also had the help of not only upper-class students, but also all the other students they had recruited during their travels around the country. Sirs and madams not appearing in this montage. With the strength of a united Thors behind them, they were able to fight their way to the top floor of the villa.
Actually, yeah, there was like at least one big group shot of the whole set of the students. We could have just had it, but I guess they were optional, so maybe it wouldn't have happened. It would be portraying something that might not have actually happened in your game. That would be unforgivable.
Dramatization. These events may not be canon. There they found the people they had come to rescue. They all stood behind while you had a combat. Before you could breathe a sigh of relief, however, the group was confronted by Altina once more. Milliam took this chance to question her about the possibility of them being sisters.
Which one's Milliam?
Altina confirmed her suspicions, claiming the two of them were technically related. Though they were curious about what exactly the pair meant by this, the group's priority was rescuing the hostages.
Yeah, that's right. They both just dropped a bunch of jargon, and everyone was like, well, let's just move on.
Yes. Altina and her puppet proved to be formidable foes, but Class 7 prevailed against them as they had all others before, except when the story said otherwise. In doing so, they were able to rescue the Imperial family and Governor Regnitz and bring us to Headpat number 7, and Reen was able to reunite with Elise at long last.
You pulled out your notes for that one, didn't you?
I did! Their job wasn't over yet, though, as the group learned Duke Cayenne had taken Prince Cedric. I nearly read that as Kedrick because of Celtic. Just as they tried to question Altina, however, a pillar of light erupted from the capital. It was centered where Valflame Palace should have been, but in the palace's place rose something dark and twisted. The Infernal Castle. According to Emma, it was summoned forth by the Hexen clan's most forbidden incantation.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to bump these ahead so you have something to read ahead, but
no, I understand.
When it's like 2 words, it catches me by surprise.
Claire took the Imperial family under her care, while Toa tried to get a better grasp on the situation. Reen, however, could feel Crow's presence within the castle. He knew he was waiting for them there. With that, Reen and the rest of Class 7 resolved to make their way into the imposing structure. Also, the castle was emitting a mist that was slowly killing everyone in Heimdall. We just kind of didn't mention that. Using Valimar to cut their way through its massive front door, they climbed upwards, fighting ever more powerful foes. Members of both Ouroboros and Zephyr stood in their way as well. Though the students put up valiant fights, their foes were just too strong.
I mean, I won every single one of those fights.
Fuck finish battles all the way up this tower. Well-timed aid from their more experienced allies allowed them to continue advancing through the castle, however, and we never saw who won any of these battles, power scalers.
Why is Elliot squinting?
I can't look directly at so much manualeness.
He's like angry Elliot over there. No Fee in this, no Milliam in this party, of course.
No, I don't think she's appeared outside of the one group shot. After a long climb, they finally reached the Vermilion Throne, their final destination. Crow and Vita were there waiting for them, as well as Duke Cayenne and the captives Cedric. I nearly said Kedrick again.
We'll get there. It looks like we're gonna have a lot more Cedric scenes, so we'll get used to actually saying his name.
Cool. Reen told Crow about the promise he'd made to Toa, Angelica, and George that he'd bring Crow back and make him graduate with them. Crow's immediate response was, "Wow, what? We're in a war."
It's a symbolic graduation, which it had been repeated like 100 times up to this point.
Though Reen knew full well how unlikely it was, that only made him want to accomplish it all the more. Oh, the impossibility makes it spicier for you, Reen. Class 7's determination took Crow by surprise, but Duke Cayenne used the moment to make his presence known. He told the group of his ancestor, Emperor Orthros, the one known as the False Emperor during the War of the Lions.
Oh yeah, he did drop that.
Yeah.
It went nowhere.
And we haven't heard it in any other speeches about the War of the Lions.
I mean, so far his speeches have been the War of the Lions. So
it's just funny on how much this guy got clowned out of history.
Actually, yeah, we had the whole Black Records thing afterwards, and it didn't mention this once that I recall.
Yeah.
Wild.
Cayenne's goal was to realize his ancestors' dream and make the country one ruled exclusively by the nobility. The group was astonished by his selflessness. Something
his
the Duke's declaration.
Sorry.
He told him they didn't care one way or the other about his dream, but the fact remained he had kidnapped the Crown Prince.
There's Milliam. It's one.
I'm mad. Thus, in order to rescue him and settle things with Crow, Class 7 would do whatever it took to put a stop to Duke Cayenne's plans. Though Cayenne was visibly upset by this, Crow and Vita interrupted him by drawing their weapons and standing in Class 7's way. We are still on the clock. The time for talking was over, their final showdown had come. It would be no easy battle, however, as Crow and Vita showed surprising levels of teamwork. Also, somewhere in here we made a new Zemurian sword for Valimar. We just didn't discuss that outside of one brief mention.
Yeah, it was that we went to go get the ore.
Yeah.
To all of the temples, and that was like 8 hours of the game condensed into 2 text boxes.
We just didn't even mention making it. That's so funny. Class 7 couldn't afford to lose this fight, though. Far too much was riding on it. No one would graduate if they lost. Mustering everything they had, they were eventually able to eke out a victory. This wasn't the end, however. Once the battle was over, both Reen and Crow jumped into their Divine Knights. Not a euphemism. It was up to them alone to finally settle the score.
I'll say this... wait, no. Yeah, no, it was the next boss fight after this. That's the one that I got really mad about getting a game over on. Sorry. We'll get there.
Yeah, no. I know the one you mean, and I remember getting real salty on that recording. Pouring his feelings into his new blade, oh, there it is, Reen stood face to face against Crow once more. Their battle pushed each of them well beyond their limits, but in the end, it was Crow who was brought to his knees. It was an outcome so incredible, the rest of Class 7 could scarcely believe it, commenting, "Wow, I didn't think you were that much of a tryhard, Reen. Look at this guy."
And none of them thought about Cedric once through the whole fight.
All except for Sarah. She broke their stunned silence and made the result official. Yep, I think the victor is clear. The battle goes to Reen. After being one step behind him for so long, Reen had finally scored a decisive victory over Crow. The rest of his comrades wasted no time surrounding and that did spell congratulating correctly, him once he had disembarked Valimar.
Yeah, it gets hard to tell once we're this deep into one of these.
Crow and Vita accepted their defeat, signaling the Noble Alliance's defeat and marking the end of the war. There have been a couple of typos, but they were usually during your segment, so I don't call them out. Or rather, that's how things should have gone if not for a certain individual who refused to accept this outcome. Forcing the captive Cedric into its core, Duke Cayenne revived the entity responsible for the calamity 250 years prior.
Crow thought it was kinda cool.
That's Sick, bro.
Okay, now we're this fucking thing.
Yup. The Vermilion Apocalypse. It drew its power from the Vermilion Knight and the member of the Arnor family housed within it, and just taking 17 turns at a time. Once the creature was freed, it wasted no time draining mana from all across the Empire.
Like, I was generally trying to avoid cheesing the game, even though, it's very cheesable, but that I if I recall right, I had to pull out some bullshit to finish that one.
I think we used a lot of food poppin' into S-Craft spam. Thinking quickly, Vita activated a barrier that prevented Class 7 from suffering the ill effects of this power. But it was only a matter of time before the Apocalypse's overwhelming power broke through it. It was enough time for Crow to devise a strategy, however. I'm gonna die at it. Having Vita enchant his weapon, he dealt a significant blow to their foe, giving Class 7 an opening to rush in. Each gave every ounce of power in them to stand up to such a fearsome monstrosity. And after fighting it off for long enough, both Valimar and Ordine had recovered enough to join the fray. Their target now was the Vermilion Apocalypse's core, where Cedric was being held. Crow took it upon himself to draw the Vermilion Apocalypse's attention in order to give Reen an opening.
Crow?
In doing so, however, he allowed it to deal a blow that pierced Ordine's chest.
Crow?
Reen was shaken by the sight of this, yet Crow's words of encouragement were all he needed to close the distance to their target. No, I got this, bro!
I don't really need legs, it's cool.
After a mighty blow, he had succeeded in ripping the monstrosity's core from its chest. The creature bellowed out in agony before fading away for good. With that, Heimdall had been saved from impending disaster. Their words there make me wonder about something. Cedric himself was safe and sound too, which came as a huge relief to the group, but it wasn't long before they noticed Crow wasn't with them. They turned their attention into Ordine in search of him, only to see the Divine Knight had fallen to its knees. A pallid Crow emerged from within, clutching at his chest. Rushing to his aid, the group realized he had suffered a wound identical to Ordine's. Emma and Celine tried their best to heal him, but it only delayed the inevitable. As his life slipped through his grasp, he apologized to Reen for being unable to keep his promise to Toa and the others. He also gave parting words to each member of Class 7, including telling Billiam, "I know you exist."
Eventually, he was lumping like 3 or 4 of them together at a time because he was running out.
And with his final breath, he asked that they live their lives with hope for the future.
While Reen smelled his hair one last time.
I'll never get this again.
What product do you use? Crow?
I'm white-haired now. I need your tips. His last moments spent with his dear friends, except for the dear friends he had known longer, he was able to pass in peace. He fell silent, leaving only the tearful sobs of his friends to echo through the halls, for like 10 seconds.
Yep.
Yet before they could even recover, Duke Cayenne let out an enraged bellow.
It is wild that they just left this guy alone so many times.
Yes! It is amazing that Vita did not just skewer him instantly.
I feel like she probably has a melt person spell.
Definitely. It's the second most forbidden thing the Hexen clan has. In a desperate final bid for victory, he held Cedric at knife point. Vita, less than pleased with his selfishness, attempted to quiet him by force. But before she could, an unexpected turn of events took place.
Unexpected by everyone. Nobody could have seen it coming.
Not in the slightest. Someone else dashed onto the scene, cutting down Vita's familiar, Grianos, without mercy, and attacking the Azure Abyss herself. To everyone's surprise, it was none other than Rufus Alberea. He announced his intent to arrest both Duke Cayenne and Vita for their actions. Those present questioned why Rufus had chosen to appear then of all times, especially considering the Noble Alliance had already lost. Further, why was he trying to arrest people who were part of his own faction? These questions were answered by the appearance of Lecter and Claire. Boo.
I like Claire.
I don't know that I'm booing Claire. The answers would stun all present to silence, especially Eustace. Rufus Alberea had, in fact, been the primary member of the Ironbloods, an organization under Osborn's direct control, all along. Duke Cayenne, equally stunned, asked what he stood to gain by revealing this after Osborn's death. He received his answer, though not from the person he expected. I actually forgot this guy's voice until, he appeared on screen. He would gain nothing, which is why it's rather fortunate I'm very much alive.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a lisp to it, which is why it's rather unfortunate. Like less than that, but it's just a little bit in there.
Yeah, I figured I'd just go to match pitch. I don't think I can do the performance. The one who uttered those words made his appearance before anyone could truly process what he had said. The man who now stood them was a man who should not have been alive. The man Crow had shot through the heart, Chancellor Gileath Osborn.
And Altina was there.
Hi. All Reen and the others could manage to do was stare in awe at the events unfolding before them. Osborn's survival had been kept an utmost secret other than multiple people who were talking about the body vanishing.
Well, they didn't know. They thought it was weird that the body, which was definitely dead, had vanished. And I had been saying that he's totally alive the whole game, and then at that point you finally gave in.
To the point where no one save Rufus had the slightest clue. Rufus and a coroner. The mission Osborn had given him was to join the Noble Alliance and weaken it from within.
I do think it's very funny that in the perfect time for a big villain speech, he was just like, yeah, I bet you'd like to know how I survived. Oh well.
Yeah, I gotta give it to the guy. He's very good at keeping his plans close to his chest, or the hole in it. Vita had her own questions on this matter, particularly regarding Altina, who had appeared with Osborn. Why did Osborn have full control over one of Ouroboros' 13 factories? What was his plan? Osborn's reply was simple and straightforward. He was going to take over Ouroboros' Phantasmal Blaze plan. Hearing this, Vita asked Reen and the others to take care of Crow before teleporting away. Osborn ordered Rufus to move forward with the occupation of Crossbell, then began to take his leave. Reen, however, refused to let him. Running up to him, he let out every emotion he had bottled up inside. Not in regard to any of these developments, but simply to the fact that Osborn was still alive. Why? Why are you still alive? Crow shot you. You're supposed to be dead. I'm sorry, I can't do a Reen.
That's fine.
But in the end, he couldn't avenge his grandfather. He didn't get revenge on you. Was everything he did? Was his whole life for nothing? And Gileath Osborn nodded and went, yeah, pretty much.
Was his whole life for nothing? I can't do it either.
That was pretty close, though. In response to Reen's furious outburst, Rufus informed him that Osborn's actions were tied to him as well. Upon hearing this, a memory buried deep within Reen's mind resurfaced.
I call bullshit on this memory, by the way. Just on him just suddenly having this memory now.
I know, right? A memory from 12 years ago, just before he was adopted by the Schwarzer family, where he was abandoned in the woods, I think? Reen, I pray you grow up strong and healthy. Oh, Aidios, if you're listening, hear me now. Please allow this child
to kill all of my enemies once he grows up.
As Reen stood there dazed, pondering what this could have possibly meant, a ruthless grin spread across Osborne's face. I'm glad to finally see you again, my son. You've grown into a fine young man. You couldn't have done this without the text on the screen in these screenshots?
Apparently not.
You didn't have a debug mode?
There's no way they used a debug mode for these screenshots.
No, probably not. Indeed,
in fact,
the Empire...
They may not have had a debug mode because they would have had to pull these from the English version, which was from a different company.
Actually, I think the debug mode's still in the English version.
Anyway.
Indeed, the Empire will soon know of the Ashen Chevalier, the hero whose brave deeds allowed us to reclaim the capital. And who better to assist me than a national hero? And thus began Reen Schwarzer's 2 years of eating shit.
Began? He's been eating shit since moment one. Divertissement. Divertissement. The occupation. Though Class 7 had helped bring the war to an end, Erebonia's fate remained firmly in Osborne's grasp. That's right. At the end of that scene, Millia was just like, "I guess I'll come with you." I don't know.
You technically signed my checks.
Bye, guys. See you at Crow's funeral. Osborne, the man shot through the heart in broad daylight, had reappeared as though nothing had happened. By his side was Rufus Alberea, who was revealed to have been the Ironblood's primary member all along. Together, they presented Reen as the hero who had put an end to the war that had ravaged Erebonia. 2 months later, Crossbell once again suffered from its position between the continent's 2 largest countries. An unexpectedly swift invasion from Erebonia left the city-state entirely under its control. Calvard, however, was not about to sit by and let its rival claim more land. The Republic sent its own troops as a counteroffensive. They stood little chance against Erebonia's panzer soldats, however, and were forced to retreat. Reen, having been named the Ashen Chevalier, was sent into Crossbell to help fend them off. During this time, a speech from the state's new ruler had been scheduled at Orcus Tower. Chancellor Osborne began the speech with the typical formalities. Following that, he named Rufus as Crossbell's first Governor General. Rufus's first act was to announce that the formerly independent state would be annexed into Erebonia. Crossbell's freedom had been stripped away, yet there were those who were working to overcome this new wall before them. One was a member of the Crossbell State Police Department, Lloyd Bannings. The other was a dancer. The other was Risha Mao, a woman who led a double life as both a performer in a famous troupe and the legendary assassin Yin. They had made their way into Crossbell's underground network of tunnels in order to keep the state's top secret info out of Erebonia's hands.
Fun fact, they don't actually drop the Yin reveal in Zero.
Wait, in Zero? Yeah, they did.
No, they don't let on.
Oh, you mean like Lloyd doesn't find out about it?
Yeah, no.
Okay. I was like, it was definitely there. We recorded it.
Yeah, no, he still has no clue.
Okay.
Very funny.
With the help of Heiyue, a mafia syndicate based in Calvard, they reached the Geofront's E sector. Their plan was to copy the information from the core terminal, then reformat the terminal itself. Trust us, it's important. Swiftly navigating the underground tunnels, it didn't take them long to reach their destination. Once they had set up, the initialization unit they'd brought with them... Wow, I inserted a comma, that's fun. All they had to do was wait for the process to finish. While relieved at first, that quickly faded when a voice called out to them from behind. Turning to look, the pair came face to face with a black-haired boy and a girl dressed in black. It's quite an understatement to call that outfit just dressed in black.
Yeah.
They had received a special order to stop Lloyd and Rishia's ploy. This was well within expectations, however, and Lloyd and Rishia decided to hold the mysterious duo off until the data wipe was done. Though their adversaries proved much stronger than their ages implied, Lloyd and Rishia pulled through. The battle seemed to take little toll on either the boy or girl, however. What's more, the girl pressed the boy to stop holding back. Rah! Agreeing, the boy began to focus his power. Rishia immediately noticed an aura of negative energy surrounding him. Both she and Lloyd braced themselves for an even fiercer battle, but just as they did, the initialization device finished its process. Lloyd and Rishia's strategy to buy time had been a success. In response, the boy's menacing energy dissipated. Unable to prevent the reformat, the boy and girl switched their objective: kill the internet. I know that's not like technically what happened, but it brings a smile to my face every time I say Reen Schwarzer killed the internet.
To me, that's canon.
The boy raised his hand and called out a name, causing a huge machine to appear out of nowhere. He proceeded to board it, and without wasting a moment, he destroyed the terminal with one powerful swing. Lloyd quickly retrieved the initialization unit as the terminal collapsed into pieces. However, he and Rishia were now cornered by a machine that boasted just as much power as the Aeons they'd faced only a few months ago. Ions? Or so it seemed, until the boy allowed them to pass, telling them arrest warrants hadn't been issued for either of them. There's probably an arrest warrant for Yin, but he doesn't know that. With little other choice, Lloyd and Rishia swallowed their pride and made their escape. But before they left, Lloyd turned and asked the boy a question. As I'm sure you already know, my name is Lloyd Bannings, and I'm a police detective with the Crossbell State Police Department. What's your name? I'm with Thor's Military Academy, Class 7... No. I'm a provisional military officer with the Crossbell government, Reen Schwarzer. Watching the two of them leave, Reen called Lecter to report his failure. Lecter spoke as if he were familiar with Lloyd and Rishia, and accepted Reen's report without reprimanding him. Having done what was asked of him, Reen stated his intention to return before cutting off the transmission abruptly. Following that, he bid farewell to Altina. Though Reen was concerned over the way Altina thought of herself as a mere tool, his concern didn't seem to resonate with her, maybe in a couple of games. Before he left, he took one final glance in the direction Lloyd and Rishia had fled. Somewhat jealous of their ability to push forward through impossible odds and believe in the future, Reen took his leave from Crossbell.
You could hear them echoing through the tunnels, saying that they had to do it for Randy and Helly, and Kea, and the Chief, and
Dudley, and Zeit, and...
Epilogue, Winter's End. Having carried out his orders, Reen made his return to Trista. Upon arrival at the station, he came across Claire, who had been waiting there for him. As she was a member of the Ironbloods, though, all she received from Reen was a cold shoulder. Not because of anything she had personally done, but simply due to her relation to people like Rufus and Osborne.
Which is fair, I think.
Quite. Claire herself was fully aware of this and could only see him off with pain in her heart. Reen felt regret over this, of course, but all he could do was continue walking and leave the station behind. Once he did, a wave of nostalgia washed over him as he looked out at Trista once more. The excitement he felt after he and his friends finally set it free from the Noble Alliance was something he could never forget. And yet, despite all of that, despite seeing the welcoming sight of the Lino flowers blooming again, he couldn't help but feel cold. Not long after, the rest of Class 7 arrived to greet him, and Angelica.
It's Milliam's turn to wince.
Together, they made their way back to the academy.
Actually, you can... Now that I'm looking at this, you can tell that all of the screenshots that have text are like way better anti-aliased. So yeah. I'm guessing this is what it looked like on PS3, or not PS3, in the original Japanese release.
Yeah. The war had been brought to a swift close by Rufus's hand, not Reen. That guy didn't do shit. The Noble Alliance had been dissolved following Duke Cayenne's arrest, and the remaining nobles made fully aware of the situation in Crossbell. After some persuasion, they had been convinced to throw their support behind Chancellor Osborne for fear of Calvert claiming the city-state for its own. With the country's military united under one banner, they had marched into Crossbell. Lacking its own military to stand against them, Crossbell fell within a day, which led to the present situation. Erebonia was at peace once more, and thus the members of Class 7 could return to being normal students. But Reen could not look back. He had killed the internet. They went through their studies and tests.
All he could do was fish.
God, we did have a fishing quest in that final segment, didn't we?
It was so long. Like, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in the middle of it, but like, it went on longer than the scene where Crow died.
Yeah, it did. And even though I've met those characters now, I still can't remember their damn names. They went through their studies and tests as usual, taking care to enjoy what time they still had together as a class. Now and then, though, Reen couldn't help but think about Crow.
It's relatable.
His friends and classmates had settled on new goals and were each putting all they had towards achieving them. With their final free day around the corner, Reen found himself visiting the engineering building. There he found George, Gnome, and Angelica, who each told him about their plans to travel around the continent.
And Angelica Gnome. I swear to God, if George and Angelica hook up, I'm done. I'm just throwing my computer out the window.
I guarantee not.
Good.
If there's one thing I've learned, it's that the series loves its problematic lesbians. In the midst of their discussion, though, it was clear to them that Reen still felt guilt over participating in the battle over Crossbell. They reassured him that he didn't need to feel bad and that he had, in fact, played a key role in protecting Crossbell's citizens. Reen could feel tears welling up over their kindness, but he held them back for now.
Didn't need that sentence. You could have just got that in the recap. Sorry, it's a little late to be complaining about that, but every time it talks about Reen's inner emotions, it's like we didn't actually get that in the game. You don't It's fine.
Following this, he paid a visit to the student council room where, distraught over giving up her hat, Toa was sleeping, having just finished her final duties as president. Rin watched her with a smile, thinking back to the last time he found her like this. Suddenly, though, his reminiscing was interrupted by her mumbling.
And the sound of the hat getting jammed in the shredder.
Ha! Angie.
Mangy. No. Nope.
George.
Mangy.
Crow.
Mangy George Crow.
The final name she uttered caused him to let out an involuntary gasp, as pattern recognition was never Rin's strong suit, which roused Toa from her slumber. Though unhappy that she was caught sleeping, she could tell at a glance that Rin didn't seem okay.
We're almost done.
I know.
Ish. There's still characters.
Worried about him, she convinced him to sit down. There's a whole dungeon coming, man. She told him there was no need to endure everything that life threw at him, and that it was okay to sit and rest if things got too hard.
And she smelled his hair.
Hearing this, the feelings that Rin had been holding back burst forth. The scene was well acted, we're selling it a little short.
Yeah, no, it was a good scene. It's just we were very tired.
Yeah. I can't believe I'm doing a second marathon session of one of these effing games this week, but I'm an idiot. He confessed his regret over both losing Crow and breaking his promise to her. Like the others, Toa reassured him he had done everything he could. After letting everything out to Toa, his final walk home as a student of Thor's awaited him. Whether by coincidence or fate, he bumped into his classmates at the gate and they all went home together. Casting their eyes upward to the falling lino flowers, they thought back to their first day at the academy. The time they'd spent together since then was truly a treasure to each of them. Their time left together was short, but they would make the most of it. Because just like that first day, they went into the old friggin' schoolhouse.
Yeah. But before they knew it, their final free day had dawned. I'm taking over, by the way, I decided.
Okay.
Sensing an odd presence at the old schoolhouse, Rin made his way over there to investigate.
I honestly didn't know if they'd add this part, so...
I mean, they've gotta. It was like the last 7 hours of the game. The moment he arrived, though, the presence mysteriously vanished. Just then, Toval, Elise, and Alphen all showed up. And Claire.
Yeah.
What's more, Claire was with them, having come as Alphen's escort. Both she and Rin took this opportunity to clear the air with one another, putting them on good terms once more. As the group chatted away, though, a bell suddenly rang out, and the old schoolhouse began to glow. The rest of the group rushed over to find out what was going on. The inside of the building had become a boundless corridor swirling with energy. As Valimar was found in the old schoolhouse, Rin summoned him to see if he could remember anything. According to him, a trial separate from the one they had faced during the school festival had now been activated. Though the particulars of this new trial remained unclear, this was their chance to unravel the mysteries of 1,200 years ago. Yeah, that's what happened. Once inside, they proceeded through to the end of the massive area. There, they found a white shadow resembling a divine knight waiting for them. It claimed to govern the Shadow Trial, which was once sealed away, but brought back due to the Infernal Castle's destruction. Class 7 had previously passed the legitimate trial that led to Rin becoming Valimar's Awakener, instead of this bullshit. According to the Shadow, there was nothing more to gain by passing this Shadow Trial. And yet, the group opted to take it regardless. They wanted to do one final act to mark the end of their time together as Class 7.
And pals.
Yeah, like 6 hangers on. Actually, no, it's like 7.
There's quite a few.
So we got Toa, just looking left to right. Toa, Elise, Alphen, Claire, Sharon, and Toval.
I think Angelica was optional too.
Where's Angela?
She might not be in this shot.
Yeah.
She might be in front of Fee.
Maybe?
Where's that Laura?
That's Laura. She's just not pictured.
Okay.
Maybe she was the shadow all along. No. Knowing this was their finale, the group spared no effort in their battle and proved victorious. Upon its defeat, the shadow dispersed into thousands of motes of light that fluttered down like lino petals. Together, they had cleared another trial. Together, they had created another unforgettable memory. She's still not in the shot.
No.
As they celebrated their victory, it finally hit them that this would be the last time they would be able to do so. To everyone's surprise, Milliam was the first to cry. Elisa was next. She went to hug Milliam, which in turn opened the floodgates for the rest of the class. This was the first time the group had let out the emotions that had been building in... There it is. Took it a while this time. This was the first time the group had let out the emotions that had been building up in each of them. Their sadness over having to split up. And then they all put on their stupid outfits.
God, some of them are so bad.
The rest of the days before the end of the school year flew by all too quickly, and then it was time for them to depart. Having gotten their grief out of the way, they each faced one another with brilliant smiles. Though they were parting ways, they believed they would one day meet again. Before leaving, though, they thanked Sarah for everything she'd done for them, and teased her for crying in response. With that, it was truly time for them to leave. Each had something he or she wished to accomplish. As they all made their departure from Trista, only Reen remained because he's not allowed in the train station. Having finished seeing his dear friends off, he returned to the academy. He knew the challenges that lay ahead for him. He would be forced to accept the government's orders for him and Valimar. But even so, he had made an important promise with his friends. Filled with determination to keep that promise, he strode forward towards his future. Return.
Well,
that was Trails of Cold Steel 2 in much less time.
Holy God, this... Remember when I said, hey, maybe we'll get out of this in 90 minutes?
Yeah, I was wondering what you were smoking, but still got a whole bunch of characters.
All right.
I would rather just do this now and not just like hold off to another day.
Okay, let's go.
All right.
Reen Schwarzer. The game's protagonist and a member of the original Class 7, Reen is the adopted son of Baron Schwarzer, the ruling lord of Ymir in northern Erebonia. He is an intermediate-level practitioner of the Eastern School of Swordsmanship, 8 Leaves, 1 Blade, and its most broken technique, Gale. Though he once feared the strange power that slept within him, his time spent in Class 7 allowed him to overcome that fear. No, you think I'm joking, but Arios busts out Gale and solos a battlefield at the end of 0.
Nice.
It's funny. Right before the Civil War, he located and became the Awakener of Valimar, the Ashen Knight. This gave him and his classmates the power they needed to bring the war to a swift end. In the final hours of the war, he learned the identity of his birth father and tragically lost an important friend. Once the war was over, he took an active role in the battles against Calvard in Crossbell, becoming famous as the Ashen Chevalier. After his classmates all graduated early to pursue their own goals, he was the only member of Class 7 to enter a second year at Thor's. Then, 1 year later,
Elisa R. Elisa Reinford, the daughter of the chairman of the Reinford Group, Erebonia's largest heavy industry manufacturer. Like Reen, she was a member of the original Class 7. She can be somewhat critical towards others, but she's considerate at heart, and her natural naivete leaves her unable to abandon those in need. 2. A hard worker, she is determined to find her own path in life without being reliant on her mother, as the two have trouble getting along with one another. Though she was initially conflicted about whether or not to graduate early after the Civil War, Reen convinced her that leaving to pursue her goals was for the best, knowing they'd be able to reunite before long. 3. After graduating, she returned home to help the Reinford Group's restructure itself. Given the nation's current political climate, the weapons manufacturer was expected to grow even larger in the coming years. Actually, now that I think about it, these third ones were in the credits of 2, these images. I think. At least some of them.
probably 1 or 2. I feel like we're going to get surprised by at least 1. Elliot Craig. The son of Craig the Red, a famous military general. A brilliant musician, Elliot initially wanted to study at a music academy, but he was forced to abandon that dream in favor of enrolling at Thor's military academy after fierce objections from his father. He was something of a coward in the beginning, but overcoming countless trials as a member of Class 7 allowed him to become much more dependable, and he began to see his enrollment into Thor's in a much more positive light. After the Civil War, he decided to transfer to a music academy in Heimdall with Green's full support. Wanting to prove that music had an important role to play even in these dire times, he practiced hard to become a professional musician.
Laura S. Arcade. The daughter of Viscount Arcade, the head of a famous the daughter of Viscount Arcade, the head of a famous military academy in Erebonia. Military family. Like Reen, she fights using a sword. And their similarities in that regard led them to become good friends.
Sword buddies!
While generally proud and possessing an open mind, she had a difficult time accepting things that strayed too far from her personal sense of justice. This was changed by meeting the former Jaeger, Fee. Once she accepted their vastly different lifestyles, she was able to mature as a person. Following the end of the war, she left the academy to train in order to prepare herself for the trials ahead. Before she left, she and Reen made a promise to each other, to each hone their swordsmanship even further. Her first major goal was to learn the Arcade School's ultimate technique. As such, she had an intense regiment of training ahead.
Machias Regnitz.
Our yelliest boy.
The son of influential reformist figure and imperial governor Karl Regnitz. Bright and hard-working, he is as strict towards himself as he is towards others. He acted as the original Class 7's vice president. A traumatic experience in his past resulted in him becoming prejudiced towards the nobility, leading to constant conflicts with Eustace. However, belonging to Class 7 gave him the opportunity to spend time with nobles very much unlike the image of the nobility he had in his mind, and his prejudices slowly faded away. Following the end of the war, he started to become concerned about the rate at which the reformist faction was accumulating power. So, in order to be able to determine what kind of future the nation was headed for, he transferred to a political academy in Heimdall. Though it was known for its incredibly high barrier to entry, he had no difficulty on the entrance exam.
Emma Milstein.
This should be funny.
The original Class 7's class president, and a girl who came from a remote region of Erebonia to attend Thor's on a scholarship. Her grades were the highest in her year group, and due to her considerate nature, she is loved by all. However, she possesses a mysterious power that differs from Orbal Arts, and seems to know more than she lets on about the strange goings-on in Erebonia. She also owns a talking cat.
A talking cat?
Owns? In truth, she is a member of the Hexen clan, a reclusive group of witches, whatever those are. However, she chose to prioritize her position as a member of Class 7 during the war, lending them her knowledge and spells. Once the war was over, she predicted that dire happenings were afoot behind the scenes in Erebonia. In order to prepare for the days to come, she graduated from Thor's Early and returned to her village in order to perfect her spellcraft, with the goal of finding her prodigal sister, Vita Clotilde.
Eustace Albarea. The second son of Duke Albarea, head of one of Erebonia's 4 great houses. He may sound arrogant and condescending thanks to his noble upbringing, but Eustace himself means no harm by this, as he is, more than anyone, aware of his own flaws and shortcomings. His mother was a commoner, which made his life as a noble far less easy than one would initially expect. He once opened up about his past to Reen, whose background was remarkably similar to his own, resulting in the two of them becoming closer.
And Machias was lying nearby, listening to the whole thing.
Yeah, Reen can't have a sincere moment with someone without somebody coming in like a comedy skit from a Takahashi manga. The 4 great houses' involvement in the Noble Alliance shook him to his core, but once he rejoined his friends in Class 7, he played a significant part in ending the war alongside them. With his father arrested for treason and his brother appointed as the first Governor-General of the Crossbelt Province following the war, he left to take up the mantle of his family as acting ruler of the Kreutzen Province.
Fee Clausel. A former Jaeger with physical strength and agility far beyond what one would expect from someone of her age and stature. After the Jaeger Corps she belonged to, Zephyr, was disbanded, she was taken in by Sarah, the woman responsible for placing her in the original Class 7. While she initially had trouble getting along with Laura, whose background is the opposite of her own, really the opposite? Like, it's very different, but they were eventually able to overcome their differences and become friends. This, along with her field studies and club activities, allowed her to grow as a person. She clashed with her fellow Corps members during the war, and in the process learned that Zephyr's boss may actually still be alive. After much deliberation, she opted to leave the academy and follow Sarah to the Bracer Guild in order to determine the truth behind what the other members of Zephyr had told her.
Gaius Warzel. An exchange student from the Nord Highlands to the northeast of Erebonia, where he and his people lived a nomadic lifestyle. He chose to enroll at Thor's to learn more about the world outside his homeland after accepting a recommendation from Lieutenant General Zex Vander of the Imperial Army. In Japanese, he's Vanderzex. He is widely trusted by his peers, and the fact that he was born outside of Erebonia allows him to see things from a completely unbiased perspective. Following the end of the war, he learned that tensions between Erebonia and Calvert had escalated, a development that would quickly take its toll on his beloved homeland. This prompted him to leave the academy and return to the Nord Highlands in the hopes of protecting the land he grew up in, promising to meet with his friends once again. Horses were involved.
They're always involved in Nord. Milliam Orion. Hi!
Millennium Onion.
A girl known as the White Rabbit, Milliam flies around Erebonia on board a strange puppet by the name of Ergetlim. She is part of the Intelligence Division and a member of the Ironbloods, an organization under the direct control of Chancellor Osborne. Despite being a mere 13 years old, she joined Class 7 as part of a top-secret mission. She is easy to like, but also has a tendency to carelessly reveal confidential information. The time she spent together with Class 7 during the war led her to understand sadness, an emotion she previously couldn't comprehend.
Oh, Reen, you gave the doll depression.
If somehow you're here and you haven't seen Cold Steel 2, it was incredibly funny how she just suddenly had sadness now.
It was a scene that did not work as well as some of the others.
As she cried for the first time, the others held her close. It was at that moment she fully accepted them as her true friends. Following the end of the war, she left the academy to return to her work as an agent of the intelligence division. Despite this, she kept in contact with the other members of Class 7 and decided to use her position in the division to look into the mysteries of her birth. Okay, so she doesn't know either.
Yeah, I think Altina knows more.
Return. Alright, we got some others.
Oh, thank God. Sarah Valstein.
Were you expecting like 40 of them?
I was expecting it might break it into the clubs. Formerly the homeroom teacher of the original Class 7, Sarah is also an A-rank bracer known as the Purple Lightning. Regarded as being attractive so long as she keeps her mouth shut?
Wow.
Holy shit. She leads a very slovenly lifestyle, drinking beer at all hours of the day.
So Fee wrote this one.
Yes. That said, she would always provide Class 7 with proper guidance and a push in the right direction whenever they needed it. Born and raised in Northumbria, she was part of the Northern Jaegers before she left and joined the Bracer Guild. During the war, she was forced to fight her former comrades, but through this she was given the chance to finally face her past. After the war, she quit her job as a teacher and returned to being a bracer full-time. She also had a certain proposition for Fee, which was obviously joining the Bracer Guild. We just read that.
Toa Herschel. Jesus Christ. The small, baby-faced former president of Thor's student council. Intelligent, polite, friendly, and hardworking, she is loved by nobles and commoners alike. And by you. Please buy our merchandise. Despite her appearance, she was actually 1 year ahead of Class 7. As student council president, she helped them out as much as possible, even going so far as to handle tasks that would normally fall under Sarah's purview. During the war, she was named acting captain of the Courageous. Under her command, the airship played a key role in bringing the war to an end. However, peace came at the cost of a dear friend's life. After her graduation, she declined the slew of job offers that came her way in favor of working with a number of NGOs. However, she eventually settled on a certain position that caught her eye.
Angelica Rogner.
Miss not appearing in the opening credits video for some reason.
That is weird. The daughter of Marquis Rogner, head of one of the 4 great houses. She was 1 year ahead of Class 7 at Thor's. Beautiful and eccentric, she acts nothing like a typical noble. Often seen clad in black leather, she spends her free time riding her orbital bike and stealing the hearts of ladies who catch her eye. Alongside Toa, Crow, and George, she played a vital part in watching over and helping the original Class 7. Unable to accept her father's role in the Civil War, she confronted him in a Panzer Soldat-powered father-daughter spat in order to get him to recognize her beliefs. That is a hell of a sentence. The loss she, Toa, and George suffered during the war was a great one, but together they were able to overcome their grief. Following this, she embarked on a journey to travel across the entire continent on her bike, so I guess that's why she's not in the opening.
George Gnome. One of Class 7's upperclassmen at Thor's. His engineering skills are exceptional for his age, often causing his peers to rely on him. He single-handedly ran the Academy's engineering building and built Angelica's bike. He'd been friends with Crow, Toa, and Angelica since they were first years, and as a result, the 4 of them often worked together to help out in Academy events. Though he was originally a disciple of Professor Schmidt at the Ruhr Institute of Technology, he ended up enrolling at Thor's after growing sick of his teacher's obstinate attitude. After he, Toa, and Angelica overcame the grief of losing a dear friend, he decided to go on a journey to learn from all the different factories on the continent.
Patrick Hyarms. the third son of Marquis Hyarms, head of one of the Erebonia's 4 great houses. A member of the noble-only Class 1 at Thor's military academy, he was none too pleased with Class 7 and its gathering of students from all social classes, treating them as rivals and mocking them at every turn. This rivalry eventually turns to mutual trust through the war, however, allowing him to play a part in ending it. Following the end of the war, he became a second-year student of Thor's alongside Reen. Patrick spent his year supporting Reen through his forced absences and bettering himself as a member of the Hyarms family.
Thomas Lysander. Hi! A former history instructor at Thor's military academy. Though his eccentric attitude and overzealousness for his subject gave him quite the reputation, his classes were well known for being both interesting and easy to understand. He watched over the students the Noble Alliance was searching for during the war, provided backup when needed, and played a pivotal role when Heimdall fell into chaos. He continued his teaching career following the war, and still seems to be in contact with Reen. What's more, both his personal curiosity and other factors have led to him showing an interest in the Black Records.
Which are mentioned nowhere in any of those recaps.
Nope. Well, yeah, we're not putting information about the Black Records in the library.
Neidhart. A member of the Imperial Army's 4th Armored Division and the former military science instructor at Thor's. Known as Neidhart the Mighty, he's Lieutenant General Craig's right-hand man. Both he and Major Mueller Vander are highly regarded due to their skill. Despite splitting his time between the academy and his military work, he's a fine teacher. He'd often bicker with Sarah, though he preferred her to dealing with Thomas. He helped marshal the Imperial Army's troops during the war while also assisting Class 7. In the final battle, he even took to the field to offer his skills. After the war, he quit his position as instructor to return full-time to the 4th Armored Division, now considered the strongest part of the army. He keeps a close watch as Erebonia continues to bolster its military forces.
And Valimar.
Hi.
A relic from before the Dark Ages, known as the Ashen Knight, discovered by Class 7 in Thor's old schoolhouse. Around 7 arg tall, it's intelligent and has its own will. Having deemed Reen its new awakener, it played a vital role in the war, especially against Panzer Soldats. It also accepted the rest of Class 7 as secondary contractors, letting them warp large distances and boosting their combat capabilities. Towards the end of the war, Reen piloted Valimar to fight the Azure Knight, or Dean, at the Infernal Castle, but both teamed up soon after to defeat the reawakened Vermilion Apocalypse. Following the war, Reen took Valimar with him to Crossbell, where their work together cemented Reen's fame as the Ashen Chevalier. Many mysteries still surround Valimar's past and true nature, but it seems that the Lionheart Emperor, Dreikels, was its previous awakener. I think that definitely seems like a translation difference from the previous games, where they will always say like Dreikels the Lionheart.
Yeah, that might just be a hey, different style guide for different company.
Allies.
Olivert Rice Arnor. The eldest son of Emperor Eugent III and a dandy known for his refined tastes. Despite being the eldest, his mother was a commoner, and as such he has no right to the throne. He became a major figure in high society and the media, perhaps due to the greater freedom not being the crown prince afforded him. He was both chairman of Thor's board of directors and responsible for the creation of Class 7. Fearing the worsening of the factional conflict in Erebonia, he built the Courageous, a high-speed cruiser. Once the war had begun, he left said cruiser in Toa and Class 7's hands, then departed for Western Erebonia to help with the fighting there. He has friends in both Liberal and Crossbell and, in disguise, played a key role in bringing the incident in Liberal 4 years ago to a close. For some reason, he's incredibly wary of Chancellor Osborne, probably the fact that the two of them hate each other with a passion.
You don't want Osborne to hate you with a passion.
but he does hate Oliver like no one else.
If you're concerned for your own safety, you don't want that. Alphen Reise Arnor. Princess Alphen. The daughter of Emperor Eugene III and Crown Prince Cedric's twin sister. Her angelic face and charming personality have gained her fans far and wide. Though generally sweet and caring, she can also be quite the tease, a trait she no doubt picked up from her older brother, Prince Olivert. Her favorite target is her best friend Elise. She also enjoys making passes at Reen simply to bask in everyone's reactions. Chaos Elemental. Though she was captured by the Noble Alliance during the war, Reen was able to rescue her, and following this, she played a key role as political backer for the courageous. After the war, she started attending St. Estrella Girls' School along with Elise. Though she had her own duties to attend to on top of her schoolwork, she also couldn't help but worry for Cedric's health.
Elise Schwarzer. Reen's sister and the daughter of House Schwarzer. Elegant and polite, she is also a close friend of Princess Alphen, who attends St. Estrella Girls' School with her. Despite the fact they're not related by blood, she adores Reen, that's a phrase for it, to the point where Alphen feels the need to tease her for it. She can also be surprisingly bold when it comes to him, particularly when he expresses any sort of self-doubt. Though she was kidnapped by the Noble Alliance during the war, Class 7 was successful in rescuing her. Following the war, she graduated from St. Estrella's middle school to its high school and became student council president. While this made her busier than ever, she still couldn't help but stop and worry about Reen, especially because he was in the news all the time.
Celine. Ugh. That is not how the 3D model looks.
The proportions are better, yeah.
A black cat whom Emma brought with her to Thor's. She has beautiful fur and, far more puzzlingly, the ability to use human language. In reality, she is both Emma's familiar and her supervisor. On numerous occasions, she tested Reen from behind the scenes to see whether he was fit to be a Divine Knight's Awakener. She gained Reen's ire by ordering Valimar to flee from the battlefield after Crow defeated him, leaving his friends behind, despite his objections. But after they fought through many battles together, they ended up on good terms, eventually reuniting with Emma. Though initially not too savvy about how human emotions worked, she became much more empathetic through her involvement with Class 7. Following the war, she accompanied Emma back to her home village.
Sharon Kruger. The former caretaker of Class 7's dormitory at Thor's military academy and a servant of the Reinford family. Elisa thinks of her as something akin to an older sister. As a veritable supermaid who remains flawless in everything from welcoming guests to cooking, she's helped Class 7 on countless occasions, always appearing when they needed her most.
I feel like that's what it said in the first game too, or in the last game. I feel like this was also part of that. The veritable supermaid who remains flawless. It's a very specific turn of phrase, and I feel like I recognize it. Sorry.
Her true identity is Enforcer Number 9 of Ouroboros, also known as the Severing Chains. During the war, she chose to fight against her fellow members, helping Class 7 out wherever possible. After the war, she returned to the Reinford household, both to serve Chairman Arena and watch over Elisa. Though Ouroboros' enforcers are granted absolute freedom, how much longer can she distance herself from her past? Also, known sadist.
She's I don't know. She's kind of like the power M, but I wonder if we're gonna get more from that than we did in Cold Steel 2, because she just got shadow banned.
She's an obvious Chekhov's gun there.
There's something that's gonna happen with her, but I don't know if it'll be like this game or the next one. Claire Revelt. A captain in the Railway Military Police, an elite organization in the Imperial Army. Her incredible problem-solving abilities, as well as charming looks, have led to her becoming known as the Icy Maiden. Much like Milliam, she is also a member of the Ironbloods, a group that answers directly to Chancellor Osborn. Unable to protect Osborn from being shot, she used her grief as motivation to support Reen and his classmates during the war. However, at the war's end, not only does she find out that Osborn had been alive all along, his relationship with Reen was also brought to light. This led to a wall forming between her and Reen, though the two were eventually able to reconnect.
Viscount Arsaid.
Sword Daddy.
Damn. Sorry. Laura's father and the head of a famous military family. Viscount Arsaid is the ruling lord of the lakeside town of Legram and is loved by his people. He is also famous as the strongest swordsman in Erebonia and bears the title of Radiant Blade Master. He shared Prince Olivert's opposition to the factional conflict, and it was partly for that reason that he was chosen to be captain of the Courageous for 10 minutes. He left the ship to Toa in Class 7 before departing for West Erebonia with Olivert during the war. However, he returned in time to help fend off McBurn at the Infernal Castle. Following the war, he took time off from his duties as captain to help train Laura and pass down the Arsaid School's ultimate technique to her.
And of course, Toval Randonura. I don't think they ever said his last name out loud once.
Nope.
A bracer affiliated with Erebonia's Bracer Guild. The limitations put on the guild in Erebonia make it hard for bracers to do their job, but he keeps doing what he can with the help of others, such as Sarah, Prince Olivert, and Viscount Arsaid. While overall skilled in combat, his true strength lies in his customized battle ornaments, which let him cast powerful arts in quick succession, unless you're controlling him. He helped Reen when he was separated from his classmates during the war, providing the sort of skills and experience only a seasoned bracer could. After the war, he tried to invite Reen to the guild, knowing full well the government's plans for him. Reen, however, politely declined, understanding his responsibility as an awakener. Sarah soon returned to the guild, and together, the two of them prepared for the crises ahead. And that's the allies. It's all allies. No more allies. None, not a single one.
Nope, just big people now. Key figures like Gileath Osborn, head of the Imperial government and known as the Blood and Iron Chancellor. Since he became Chancellor, he's pushed for the modernization of Erebonia, expanding the railway network and annexing nearby territories. His approach earned him great popularity among commoners in Erebonia, but also incited the ire of the nobles, making him, in a sense, the cause of the country's political turmoil.
In a sense.
Shot clean through the heart during a speech, his death heralded the Civil War as the Noble Alliance forces moved to take Heimdall immediately afterwards. At the end of the war, it was revealed that not only did he survive, but that Rufus Alberea, a key pillar of the Noble Alliance, was working for him. Further, he announced his intent to usurp Ouroboros' phantasmal blaze plan and left Reen stunned with the revelation that he was his birth father.
You could say he's partially responsible for some of the things that have happened, maybe a little bit.
Huh.
Rufus Alberea. The eldest son of Duke Alberea, head of one of the four great houses, and a key figure in the noble faction. He was Eustace's instructor in court fencing, and his younger brother trusted him implicitly. He served as chief of staff for the Noble Alliance during the war, and successfully fought off the Imperial army with his brilliant strategies. Towards the end of the war, though, he revealed himself to be the primary member of Osborn's Ironbloods, bringing the war to an end after dismantling the Noble Alliance from within. Under orders from Osborn, he then oversaw the annexation of Crossbell and became its first Governor-General.
Lecter Arundel.
Hey, it's a friendly sword. He's winking.
A captain in the Imperial Army's Intelligence Division and a second secretary for the Imperial government. He's a member of the Ironbloods, Chancellor Osborn's hand-picked assistants, yet he's aided Reen and his classmates on several occasions. His carefree nature and often shocking behavior make it difficult to others for others to predict his next move or his overarching goals. His incredible success while undertaking unofficial negotiations on behalf of the government and military has earned him the nickname Scarecrow. During the war, he assisted the Imperial Army alongside Claire and Milliam. He then made a well-timed visit to the Infernal Castle following Osborne's reappearance. After the war, he took up the role of delivering the government's orders to Reen, acting as both his support and supervisor.
Prince Cedric. Crown Prince Cedric. The second son of Emperor Eugent III, and Princess Elphin's younger twin brother. Though not the oldest of the Emperor's children, he was named Crown Prince due to Olivert's commoner blood. Kind and honest, he and his two siblings were always on great terms, though Elphin sometimes found herself frustrated with his shyness. He had a deep respect for Olivert. He was kidnapped by Duke Cayenne during the war, and eventually forced to become the core for the Vermilion Apocalypse. Imagine if you didn't know and you they just dropped that.
Whoa, what?
Though he was rescued through Class 7's efforts and the sacrifice of one of their friends, his health took a turn for the worse following the war, and thus he had to delay his enrollment into Thor's military academy.
Karl Regnitz. Ugh, you aged poorly between games, my man. Machias's father and the Imperial Governor of Heimdall. The first commoner ever to hold the position, he is a close ally to Chancellor Osborne. Though a member of the reformist faction, he is known for his desire to work together with the nobility. He was captured by the Noble Alliance during the war, but took initiative during Heimdall's crisis to help bring order to the city. Following the war, he assisted with the newly annexed Crossbelt Province's economic strategies and with rebuilding the region's political environment.
And nothing else.
Yeah.
I don't trust him. I'm still on that. I think he's up to something.
I don't think you can be a good politician in or around Crossbell, is all I'll say.
Irina Reinford. Elisa's mother and the chairman of the Reinford Group. Her husband, a gifted engineer with no name, passed away many years ago. She herself is as sharp and ruthless as they come, forcing her own father out of power to gain her current position, then moving to expand the group to levels previously unseen. This, together with her involvement in developing the railway guns, created a rift between her and Elisa. The distance between them closed somewhat when Elisa and the rest of Class 7 rescued her during the war, however. Following the war, she shifted priority to reorganizing the RF group to a new stage with Sharon's help, while also keeping a watchful eye on Elisa's growth.
Olaf Craig. Elliot's father and commander of the Imperial Army's 4th Armored Division. Known as Craig the Red, the division he leads boasts the greatest firepower in the Imperial Army. Though his grizzled and imposing appearance may lead people to believe otherwise, he is an impossibly doting father to Elliot's constant embarrassment. He cooperated with Class 7 during the war, then played a vital part in retaking Heimdall from Noble Alliance forces. Pleased with Elliot's growth during his time with Class 7, he finally allowed him to pursue his dream to be a musician and transfer to a music academy. His family life settled, he then began to prepare for the looming threat of Calvard.
Alright, that's key figures. There's some suspicious figures, though. Suppose we need to find out about these suspicious figures. Such as Vita Clotilde. Casual Vita. A woman known to many as Misty, the personality behind Radio Trista's popular show, Abend Time. Her soothing voice and playful demeanor gained her fans from all over the Empire. Unbeknownst to many, she was also the Azure Diva, a famous performer at the Heimdall Opera House. After running into both of her personas, Reen was able to make the connection between the two. In reality, though, both of these were a front for her true self, the Azure Abyss. Now that I think about it, I think it was Anguis, second Anguis of Ouroboros. and the one in charge of the Phantasmal Blaze plan. At the end of the war, she summoned the Infernal Castle, then had Reen and Crow fight one another in their Divine Knights, though her reasons for this were unclear. No kidding.
Sure, man.
Her plan was stolen soon after by the reappearance of Osborne, forcing her to go into hiding.
McBurn. Enforcer number 1 of Ouroboros. Known as the Almighty Conflagration, he can conjure and control fire at will. Said fire can burn anything and everything to ash, making him the undisputed strongest of the Enforcers. However, he spends most of his time doing whatever he pleases, abandoning missions entirely if he loses interest. On the other hand, his motivation is set ablaze by powerful foes, changing him into the Blazing Demon, an entity wreathed in pitch-black flames. At the end of the war, he stood in Class 7's way in the Infernal Castle. Summoning his demon sword Angbar, he readied to annihilate them before Viscount Arcade arrived to challenge him. The two then proceeded to have a battle well beyond the limits of human comprehension.
And Falcom's budget.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to change into this art.
No, that one was much more extra than Vita's clothes change.
Duvali the Swift, the head knight of the Stahlritter, a group led by Ouroboros' 7th Anguis. Known as Duvali the Swift, her strength rivals that of most Enforcers. Though a member of Ouroboros, her extreme devotion to the Steel Maiden and earnest personality make it hard to dislike her, for friend and foe alike. It was a mystery why she thought of Laura as her rival, but all became clear at the Infernal Castle, where she revealed that her master was indeed the same legendary figure from 250 years ago that Laura's family once served. I guess they did reveal that? Did they?
I think they were a little more vague about it in the moment, but yeah.
Okay, all right, well, I guess that theory doesn't sound as impressive anymore. All right, fine.
Yeah.
Fine, Duvali.
Hey, you picked up on it. Oh, Leonidas and Zeno.
Wow.
That's an art style choice. Regimental commanders of Zephyr, one of the strongest Jaeger Corps on the continent. Known as Trapmaster Zeno and Leonidas the Behemoth, they helped raise Fee and were like family to her. Following the death of their boss, though, they both abruptly vanished from her life. But in a surprise turn of events, both were hired by Duke Cayenne to help the Noble Alliance take over Heimdall. They also clashed with Class 7 a handful of times over the course of the war. Following their battle at Infernal Castle, they informed Fee of their plan to bring back their boss before disappearing once more.
Altina, the Black Rabbit, a mysterious girl who was seen working alongside the Noble Alliance during the war. She kidnapped Princess Alphen and Elise, and also proved a powerful foe for Class 7, thanks to Clown Salias, a black combat shell similar to Milliam's Ergetlum. Much like Milliam, she came from the Black Workshop, who lended her to the Noble Alliance. That was simply a front to fool Duke Cayenne, however. The Black Workshop was under Osborne's control, and Altina was just another tool to help Rufus bring down the Noble Alliance. With Duke Cayenne arrested by her hand, the war came to an end. Following that, she joined the Intelligence Division and accompanied Reen on his missions outside of the country, both as his support and to keep tabs on him.
Crow Armbrust. A former second-year student at Thor's and a close friend of Toa, Angelica, and George. In danger of being forced to repeat a year due to missing too many lessons, he was transferred into Class 7 and told if he participated in their curriculum, he would be allowed to graduate. The rest of the class quickly warmed up to him because he didn't screw them out of money and then come on to them, and they went through field studies and even performed on stage together. But his true identity was C, the leader of the Imperial Liberation Front. His assassination of Chancellor Osborne was the shot that heralded the Civil War.
Guided by Vita, he was the Awakener of Ordine, the Azure Knight, and stood as one of Class 7's opponents during the war. Despite everything that happened, he reconciled with his friends following their final battle at the Infernal Castle.
So you're saying that once his identity was revealed, he shifted back to his home accent,
Yeah, absolutely.
which definitely happened.
But not long after, he suffered a fatal wound while fighting alongside them to defeat the newly revived Vermilion Apocalypse, bringing his short life to a tragic end. You can also just say his tragic life to a short end.
He's dead. He's dead forever, for sure.
Truly.
Others, just like Osborne was dead forever, they wouldn't do that twice. It's silly. Duke Cayenne. Head of the Cayenne Dukedom, which governs the Lamar province and is the de facto leader of the four great houses. Not only did he possess a fortune greater than some smaller countries, he had an equally powerful army. He took control of the Rhineford Group factories aligned with the noble faction, using them to create a massive flagship and panzer soldats. He also funded the Imperial Liberation Front in order to get rid of Chancellor Osborne and begin the Civil War. His goal was to carry on the will of his ancestor from 250 years ago, which led him to summon the Infernal Castle with Vita's help. Things didn't go quite as expected, though, after Reen and Crow made amends. In desperation, Reen and Crow made friends, so he revived the Vermilion Apocalypse at Crown Prince Cedric's expense, only to be betrayed and arrested afterwards. His political power is such that even after such blatant treason, a verdict on his trial still has yet to be reached.
I can't tell if that's the most realistic or stupidest part of this. Aurelia Le Guin. Former commander of both Lamar's provincial army and the Noble Alliance forces. She is the head of House Le Guin and a swordsman renowned for having mastered both the Arcade and Vander schools. Her incredible strength and golden aura have led to her being feared as the Golden Rakshasa. Together with Brigadier General Wallace Bardius, she drove off the Imperial Army and expanded the Noble Alliance's territory during the war. Eventually, she tried to bring things to a close with one final battle near Heimdall, but this was interrupted by the Infernal Castle. She agreed to the ceasefire after Duke Cayenne's arrest and retreated to her stronghold in West Erebonia to watch how things would play out.
Wallace Bardius, the lesser of the pair. The head of House Bardius and leader of the Sutherland Provincial Army. He is a descendant of the people of Nord who accompanied Emperor Dreicheld during the War of the Lions, and his terrifying skills with a lance have led to him being referred to as the Black Whirlwind. Aurelia's right-hand man, he served as second in command of the Noble Alliance forces during the war. Alongside Aurelia, he agreed to a ceasefire with the 4th Armored Division when the Infernal Castle spawned in Heimdall. Following the end of the war, the government was intent on stripping the provincial armies of their power, and he was a key figure in negotiating against it. So we're definitely fighting him this time, right?
Unless budget cuts happen again. Ooh, Professor G. Schmidt.
Professor Schmidt.
Oh, Professor.
That's not where I was going with that, but alright.
One of the 3 disciples of Professor Epstein, father of the Orbital Revolution. Schmidt is a genius and known as Erebonia's greatest engineer. He's head of the Ruhr Institute of Technology, and together with Gwyn, former chairman of the Rhineford Company, they revolutionized Erebonia's technology. Impossibly stubborn, he takes interest only in his research to the point where even his disciples have labeled him a lost cause. Though he had no allegiance to the nobles or the reformists, he assisted in the production of all sorts of deadly weapons, including the railway guns and panzer soldats. George, one of his disciples, scolded him for this, convincing him to help with creating a new blade for Valimar so Reen could put an end to the fighting.
He did not create it so Reen could put an end to the fighting. He created it because he thought it would be fun.
And because he was like, I can do this, no one else can.
I like to flex. I don't know. It's too late now. I can't do the proper Schmidt voice. Anyway, the ultimate character, Lloyd Bannings. A detective. I can do it. We're almost done. A detective working for Crossbell's police department and the leader of the special support section. He headed up a group of unique individuals, some with no affiliation with the police, and together they stood against and eventually foiled a huge conspiracy that threatened to swallow the entire state. However, before they did, Erebonia's Guerrilla fortress was annihilated, and the Empire used this as an excuse to invade and annex Crossbell. Lloyd and his comrades would continue to struggle for Crossbell's sake, however. On the day the annexation was announced, he and Ricio went underground to collect and prevent key information from falling into Erebonia's hands. In doing so, though, he came face to face with Reen, who had been sent to Crossbell under a special order from the government to retrieve said information. And that's it.
All right.
That's everything, except unless you want to do the Trails of Cold Steel 1 summary again, we could do it.
Well, this is where you're going to copy and paste in our audio from the last time.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. For sure.
Certainly.
I'm not going to do that. I would have to, time it.
Yeah, I know you're not going to, and why the hell would we do that to ourselves?
All right, we got one last shot. Let's see if we can get a Kurt. One last roll.
All right.
Nope, it's Yuna again.
I wonder if we haven't unlocked his past yet, and that's why we don't have that.
It's definitely in the rotation. I've seen it a bunch of times.
Okay.
Anyway, that's it. That's Trails of Cold Steel 3 on the latest version, because we just started this and they already patched the game. like less than 2 weeks, and this game came out 2019 in on Steam or somewhere around there, and they just patched it this week. Unbelievable.
All for achievements, but they did it on all of the Trails games, so...
Yeah, they patched it in order to fix a bug that we were not likely to hit.
Yep.
It's Trails of Cold Steel 3. We'll do it next time. It's late. Thank you for watching. Bye.
See ya!